It's been almost a year since I released my first course, How to Build a Custom AI App. It taught hundreds of students to take their ideas for an AI app and turn it into reality. The video you're watching now will be the entire course shown for free from start to finish. And I'm hoping that this entire lesson plan will help kickstart your dreams of starting an online business. This course is originally $99, and you're getting the entire course unfiltered in this video for free. With the purchase of this course, I offered 2 freebie templates. This is the only thing that you're not going to get. These templates were a way for the students to jumpstart their business and to kind of look in the back end to how things worked. I'm not giving this away to honor the students that actually purchased this course over the past year, but you don't need these templates to take this course. Everything that I offer and show here will help you build your custom AI app. There's going to be timestamps for each of the lessons in the description below. Feel free to bookmark this video and come back to it multiple times. You don't have to watch it in one sitting. It's going to be pretty long, but everything you're going to want to know is here. Before we get started, I want to quickly teach you about Your AI Agent. You can access this app at youraiagent.com. Your AI Agent is a comprehensive business suite of AI agents for your company. We have everything from AI video editing, auto blogging, Pinterest agents, Tumblr agents, Blue Sky posters, chatbots, AI agents that do cold email outreach, customer support agents, affiliate agents for eBay and Amazon, AI voice call agents where you can call a phone number and talk to someone live, Instagram bots, LinkedIn bots, Reddit responders, AI newsletters for your subscribers, YouTube responders, social listening tools. You can generate UGC ads, LinkedIn posters, lots of X or Twitter agents, and there's more and more automations being added each week. So if you're interested in learning more, I'm going to leave a link to a video playlist in the description below. In that video playlist, we have videos about every AI agent that's available. The goal with this app is to eventually automate all of the cumbersome tasks of your business so that you can focus on the more important things like high-level overview and strategy and actually making sales. Come check it out. I'd love to have you on board. All right, and without further ado, this is how to build a custom AI app. Enjoy. The purpose of this course is to help teach you how to turn custom GPTs into an app. We're going to take your ideas and turn them into AI tools. I'm going to teach you how to build all of this with Bubble, which is a no-code website builder. You can use this information to create AI workflows for your business. I'm going to teach you how to find and charge customers for your AI tools and applications. And by the end of this course, you're going to know how to build a successful AI side hustle. The course currently contains 24 lessons. In the first module, we show you the free templates that you get upon purchasing this course. Then I teach you how to set up the template and configure it so that it works. We'll quickly go through these templates in a bit, but these are free apps that you can launch today and make money. I wanted to give you guys a huge head start in this business, and this was the best way to do so. The next module is Bubble Fundamentals. If you're a beginner with Bubble, these lessons will explain what it's about. I'm going to walk you through the interface, explain all of the elements, styles, the settings, what are workflows, and how to configure your database. In Module 2, we're going to get advanced. I'll teach you sign up and login workflows, design hacks, optimizing your app for mobile, and then troubleshooting and template support. In Module 3, we're going to be adding all of the AI features. So setting up the API connector and making your first API call, how to get your OpenAI API key. We're going to add AI image generation, AI audio and video transcripts using GPT Vision, image-to-image edits, and AI text-to-speech. And in Module 4, we're going to be walking through one of those free templates that you've received. This module will show how everything works inside the application so you can modify it for your specific needs. Soon there will be a marketing module. I will teach you the best way to market your app and start acquiring real paying customers today.
There's also new lessons released semi-daily. We started with 15, we're now up to 24. If you're running through this course and you have an idea for a lesson that was not covered, you can shoot me an email and I'll make it immediately. Also, new AI features are being released regularly on the market. If I find a good use case, I will add them to the course. You get lifetime access for one single purchase. If you want to see the 2 templates that you get free with this course, on the landing page, click free templates and you can visit each of these demos. Here's the AI content generator. It will take you to this page, click continue as demo user, and then you can fool around with the app, check out all of its features, make some generations. Again, this is yours to use as you wish. You can use it for the elements and paste it into new apps. You can rebrand this one with your own logo and start selling to customers. You can look at it and see how the workflows were made so you can add them to your own. It gives you full commercial rights. The second template is the AI ebook generator. Click view the demo and then continue as a demo user. This is the AI application that we build together in module 4. Again, you have full commercial rights, but the point of this template was to teach you Bubble and how you can turn your custom GPTs into its own web application. I had a custom GPT that wrote ebooks, and instead of using ChatGPT, I turned it into an app where if the user clicks upgrade, they can purchase the standard or premium plan. If you have any questions, if you need any help, if you're currently building your own AI app and need support, you're getting some errors, you're stuck, shoot me an email. I respond to everybody. I'll be happy to help you out. When you're all ready to go, click enroll now, and I'll see you in the first lesson. After you first log in, you're going to go to your apps page. This is a list of all of your created apps. I have 46 of them, but we're going to go in the top right corner and click create an app. You can start an app from a template that you find on the Bubble Marketplace. But for this, we're going to start right from scratch, and I'm going to name this app AI ebook generator. Click get started. Now we are going to be using a feature called back-end workflows. I'll explain what that is later on in the course. And in order to use that feature, you do need to be on a paid plan. But don't worry, you won't lose this option. You can skip for now and then activate the free trial later. So I'm going to click start with basic features. It's going to start on this page. I like to skip the application assistant. This gives us a blank white page. And this is your Bubble editor. So some important things to know. This is your canvas. So this is your website. Here are your elements. These are all the elements that you can put on the page. And these are your specific Bubble features. Okay, we are designing right now. And this is how I like to visualize a web page. I'm going to double click. That's going to bring up the element properties. Now I double clicked on a blank page, so the element properties is of the page. This stuff is not important, but I suggest you take some time to go through all of these settings and change what you like. Obviously, background color will do what you think. The page title will be what is shown in the tab. But when you click on layout, you're going to change the container layout to either row or column. Now, a column stacks elements from top to bottom, and a row stacks elements from left to right. Most websites that you go on will be from top to bottom. So I like to default set this to column. It's just how my brain works. And then if I close this, I can show you exactly how that looks on the page. So let's add a button. I'm just going to drag the button on. It's a giant button, not a big deal. But now when I add a text, what's going to happen? Well, because it's on column, it's going to snap right below the button. And there's the text. So I go, this is text. Each element has the properties. You can select the font, obviously change the font size, make it extra bold. Now I can drop an image, same thing. It's going to move to the bottom. Let's upload an image. This is Homer eating a hamburger. And you can start to see the elements stack on the page in a column. Now, if I double click the background again, that's the page, go to layout, we see something here called container alignment. This is stacking all the elements from top to bottom. This next one would stack all the elements in the middle. This one would stack all the elements on the bottom. This one would spread out the elements throughout the page to fill all the white space. And this would do the exact opposite. It would squeeze everything to the middle. Now, nothing changed with my elements because the page size is very small. If I make this something like 1500 pixels, you can start to see things stretch. Just like the full page, each individual element also has a layout tab. This is where you can adjust the width, the height, and its margins. Simply put, margins is the space on each side of the element. So I'm going to zoom out here. If I added 25 pixels to the top margin, this button is going to move 25 pixels from the top. So I'll put that in now and see it moved 25 pixels. So this is a way to space out your elements properly. You can always change the horizontal alignment. Right now it's snapping to the left side. If I click this middle one, boom, it's going to move into the middle. Visualizing how your web page is going to look and then playing around with the elements is just going to take some practice. I've spent thousands of hours building apps, so this is second nature for me, but I'm telling you it's easy. You just got to fool around with it. So now I'm just going to clean up this page, watch what I do to the elements and how I position them, and hopefully this will show you how easy it is. So first off, this button's really big. That's a lot of pixels, 573. Let's drop this to something like 200, a lot smaller. Let's also make this a fixed height. 238 is really large. Maybe something like 120. I can press the down arrow keys just to kind of stick it into something that looks pretty good. So around 60 looks good to me. I can go to the appearance, change edit me. Let's change it to click me. The style of the button is a primary button style. So that's just simply in the styles tab. Bubble starts you off by default with a lot of styles for all the elements. So you can change this for faster editing, but I can just do it by hand here. I'll detach the style. Let's go down here. Let's maybe change this button to red. There we go. And it's 25 from the top. I'm going to go to layout and let's make it 25 from the bottom too. So it spreads out this text and the button. Now I'm going to go to the text. We'll do something like heading. I'm going to go to the layout here. I'm going to uncheck fixed width. It's going to stretch it long to the page. Let's make this as little as possible. And I'm going to go fit width to content. It snaps the element to there. Now the height's too large too. So I'm going to take away this 200 and it's going to snap out. It's going to perfectly fit around the heading. And then I'm going to center align it. Also scrolling down, I'm going to make the margin another 25, evenly spaced throughout the page. The last thing is this image. It's a little stretched. I know this is a square image, so I'm going to click keep element aspect ratio fixed. That's going to keep it 1:1. That is a square image. And let's say I wanted this 500. I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. And because of that, we have a lot of space on the page. So I'm going to double click on the page. It is on space around. I'm going to go space in the middle. That's going to suck everything to the middle here. Let's make this page a bit smaller, as small as possible. And I want to center this image in the middle of the page. There we go. We have a button, a heading, and then the image. Now I'm going to click this image, go to layout, and make it 25 pixels from the bottom as well. And here's our nicely laid out page. When you're ready to view it, you can go up here and click preview. It's going to open up a new tab. And this is the page we made. They have this debug bar at the bottom. I just like to take away this from the URL. So you just get the page name, click enter. That will remove that bar at the bottom. And if I zoom out here, there's our page. Let's walk through the default bubble elements on the left bar here. We'll go through each of them quickly and I'll show you how they work and how you can use them for your app. First is the text. So I'm going to click it, drag it on the page. And this is pretty self-apparent. Any place that you have text in your app, you'll use this element. You can change its font weight, its size, its line spacing, its color, and format how you like. The next is a button. A button is like the text element, except the text is auto-aligned in the center, both vertically and horizontally. There are some limits with the button element, so I actually use text elements and I turn them into a button like so. Center, make sure it's fitting height to content. Then I just add some padding here. Let's do 15, 15 pixels bottom, 20 pixels left, 20 pixels right. I can uncheck this, make it a fixed width, and then you can turn the text to white and make the background any color you'd like. There, I just made a text element into a button, and now we have more options. Icons are little default bubble icons. Sometimes icons looks good. It helps the user know exactly what the text is saying or what the button does. Almost like emojis. You can have a full scroll through here and choose whatever you like. Let's do this pause button. You can also change the color. Next is a link element. What's special about links and what makes it different than text is this link destination option. So you can link to an internal page or an external URL. An internal page is what it seems. Any of the pages in your app, you can link to it. So if someone clicks on this element, they go to that page. An external URL will take you outside of the app, and you can open that in a new tab by checking here. This is the image element. You can upload a static image from your computer or a dynamic image that pulls from your database. And to pull dynamic images, you'd go insert dynamic data. You could do something like current users. And if we had an image field like avatar, we could pull that in. And when the user loads the page, this image element would show their avatar. They give you some run mode rendering options like rescale, stretch it. I use zoom a lot because you never really know the aspect ratio of the image that the user is going to use. So zoom fits it to your element size. And then the alt tag is for SEO purposes. All other options are the same for the other elements as well. A shape is a weird element. I think I've only used this 1 or 2 times. And what I did with the shape is I kind of made a line to separate sections of a landing page. So I got this shape out. Let's not make it a fixed width. It will stretch across the page. And then we're going to make it a fixed height. Let's say 2 pixels. Actually, that's a little small. Let's try 4 pixels. And I use it as a visual element here. Hero landing page text and the next section. This is an alert. Alerts can be called from a workflow. And I like to position the alert at the top of the page and make sure it stretches the entire page. 113 height's probably too big. Let's try something like 50. And you could do something like your changes have been saved. I use the browser plugin to give browser notifications. I like how those alerts look a bit better. But by default, you have these alerts in Bubble. This is the video element. They give you 2 options for a video source, YouTube or Vimeo. YouTube is obviously free. Vimeo costs money to store your videos. So if I went with YouTube here, you have to choose a video ID. And if I copied the link to this video, we'll paste it in here like this. The video ID is the last digits after V equals. So I would copy this, go back to the Bubble app and paste that in. And I can do something like play the video automatically on load. And if I preview the page, we have that video. If you're going to use this element properly, YouTube videos are at a 16:9 aspect ratio. So I'd click this and go 16:9. And then your width can be whatever. It will keep the same shape. So we'll go 500. And now it's proper video orientation. The HTML element lets you add code within your app. Some add-ons like Intercom Bubble Chat, you know that support chat in the bottom right corner of a website, they use HTML code to connect their app with yours. So this is something that you could use this element for. If I add in code, it will be invisible on the page. This is like your custom code block. You could do styling and formatting. I use this sometimes, but not very often. Next is the map element. If you're a skip the dishes type of app, if you're an Uber app, a travel website, you might use this map element. It connects to Google Maps and you connect it in your settings. Go to general and then it's general services API keys and you'd find your Google geocode API key and then your Google Map API key. This built on Bubble. If you're so happy and excited that you built an app with Bubble, I guess you can advertise them for free on your page. This is a silly element in my opinion. And this browser element is a plugin that we installed, so it will show below the default elements. And every other plugin that you install they will start being listed down here. Next are the container elements. The first is a group. You can start with a group and then add elements inside of the group. So I'm going to make this layout a row. So it's going to start stacking elements from left to right. I could do an image here and then a button and then a text. Drop this text in, and a group bunches a bunch of elements together. You can also group elements by clicking on one of them, holding shift, clicking on another, right clicking, and then going group elements in and then choosing your group. So let's choose a column container. It would create a group with those two elements inside it. The next is a repeating group. This group repeats all the elements that you put inside the first group. So you can see a mini visual of what's happening here, repeating group item 1, and then it repeats 4 times. This is a very powerful element. It's probably the most powerful thing in Bubble, and it connects to your database. It pulls data from there and displays it in a group. I go over all this in its own lesson. This is the pop-up element. By default, it grays out the rest of the page. You have some interesting style options on the pop-up element. You can pick the surface of the pop-up. By default, it's white. You can disable the pop-up being closed by someone clicking outside of it or by clicking escape. And then you can choose your gray out color. That's this background color. So if I clicked on this, it's currently at black with 60% opacity. If I made this thicker, like 80%, it'd get darker. You also have the option for a gray out blur. If you have sensitive text in the background, you can blur that out. Most of the time, you're going to be sending content into this pop-up from the page below it. Like in the AI content generator template, the free template you got with this course, there's one feature that you edit the generation text in a pop-up. So you click it on the main page, and then you element action toggle that pop-up, and all that data appears in the pop-up. The next is a floating group. You can get really creative with floating groups. I've used floating groups for menus. I've used them for pop-ups, but people normally use them for headers. And a floating group does just that. It floats above the page. So I'm going to make this a different color so you can see what's happening. We'll make this red, and we're going to stretch it to the end of the page. And then let's make this page really, really long. Let's make it like 2,000 pixels long. And let's keep adding buttons. I'm going to add 2 buttons here so you can see what's happening in preview. See, the buttons are in the middle and the floating group's at the top. If I preview, the floating group is going to stick to the top as I scroll down the page. So yeah, great for a header. If you have menu items in the header and you have a long page, your users can still access the menu items from at the bottom of the page, the middle of the page, wherever they are. You can stick this floating header to the top, to the bottom, float it relative to both. That's good for left bar menus. And if it's only on one side, you can choose left or right. This is stretching both ways, so it doesn't matter. The next is a group focus. You can picture these as a group that attaches to another element. So the first thing you need is a reference element. So let's go up here. Let's do an icon. I'm going to add an icon to the page. Let's make it really big. And then we're going to take this group focus and let's give it a large border so you can see what's going on. We are going to make the reference element that icon and see how it snaps to that icon. Then I could do something like offset it 20 pixels from the top, offset it 25 to the left, and then I'd add a workflow. When this icon is clicked, it's going to toggle that group focus. So if I preview the page and I click it, boom, it pops up. This is great for menus. If you click outside of it, it closes. If you click it, it shows it. The next element is a table. It's currently in beta. Think of it like your own CSV spreadsheet right on the page. It's pulling data from your database, so you have to choose the type of content and the data source. Next are all the inputs. So we have a basic input. Let's make this a bit smaller, 50. And the thing with a basic input is it's only one line. So I can keep typing to infinity and see how it just goes all in the same line. That is the regular input. The multi-line input will stretch that text to multiple lines. So if I preview this and I do the same thing, I keep typing, see how it's going to the next line? They both do the same thing. It's just a difference in the visual. With a multi-line input, you can fit height to content, So if the text keeps going, it will stretch the input box to infinity. Here is an example checkbox that you've seen many times. I want to receive promotional emails. They can check this. And now you can run workflows like when this value has changed, when the person has checked it. You could do something like create a new thing in the database. Let's say create a new ebook, but only when this checkbox is checked. So the good thing about this input is you can create a lot of only when conditions. In that promotional emails example, you cannot add them to your email user list if the checkbox, and I'm going to go, isn't checked. And if it is checked, you can add them to the list. Next is the dropdown. A dropdown can have static or dynamic choices. Now, a dynamic choice can be anything in your database. It can also be option sets. Option sets are default data types that you can pull from anywhere in your app, and it doesn't take up a database entry. So let's say I did foods. I could have pizza, burgers, French fries, cake, and soup. Now in the dropdown, I can make the type of choices foods with the option caption being the current option's display name. For the placeholder, I can write pick your favorite food. And for the choices source, I'll choose all foods. So now when I preview this app, it says pick your favorite food. When I click the dropdown, it's going to show pizza, burgers, French fries, cake, and soup. This is the search box. The search box is used to access your database from inside the app. And it works kind of like any other search, like a Google search, a Bing search. You'll have to choose a style of choices. Let's say it's dynamic. You could also use static choices and geographic places. This only works alongside the map when you have your Google Maps API key. So dynamic choices we showed in the last example. Let's now show static choices. And with a static choice, you enter in your choices with a line break in between. So sticking on the food example, let's do cookies, enter, cake, chocolate, candy, crispers, chips, and then a veggie like cabbage. When I preview, I can start searching. I'll start with C, A, and it's going to pull up all of the choices with C and A. So I could choose candy. That is the search input. Radio buttons are multiple choices. We'll write cake, pizza, chips, and cookies. And then above these radio buttons, I'll add something like a text. This is an input tag. And I could go choose your favorite food. And we'll make this bold. I'm going to hold shift, right click. I'm going to group them in a column container. And then let's fit the width of this column container. And then we're going to center it. Now when I preview the app, it says choose your favorite food. And with the radio buttons, you can click any of these and select your choice. The next input element is the slider input. With the slider input, you choose a min value and a max value. So for example, if this slider input was what is your age, you could do something like 18 to 100 with one step in between. You can change the color of the slider. Let's change the handle color. We're going to make it red. And it's a little large, so let's drop it to 40. And now preview the page. And we can slide this element. And in the background is keeping track of what exactly the number is in the slider input. We can also add a text here. Let's center this text. And we'll make this text a dynamic value. We're going to go slider inputs value. So we can actually see what the slider input is doing. Right now it's at 18. I'm going to slide it all the way up to 80. And then I can store that data in the database. This is the date and time picker. You can choose either date or both date and time. And then the date format. Let's do the full date, Tuesday, January 15th. You can also choose a minimum and maximum date or a minimum and maximum hour if you want to restrict the user's choices. When I preview the page, clicking on this is going to bring up the date element. So I can go way into the future. Let's say April 11th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Next is the picture uploader. If there's a spot in your app where you need the user to upload a picture, you can use this element. I built a tool that captions your photos using AI. And for that, I use the picture uploader. So you can do something like when an input's value is changed, and then it grabs the picture uploader. And what I did was I used the plugin text generation I called GPT-4 Vision as soon as a picture was uploaded. And then I got that result and then I showed it to the user on the page. When someone clicks this, it's going to open up their computer files and then they can choose a photo. The file loader does the exact same thing, except it's not limited to JPEG, PNG. With this element, they can upload any type of file, documents, videos, audios, PDF. You can default start them with a file, like pulling something from their user profile. You can make sure the input is not empty so that users can't save the page unless they've uploaded a file. And then you can also change the max file size of the upload. If you don't have a lot of database space on your bubble plan, you can lower that to say 50 megs. By default, it's 50 megs, but you can raise that to whatever you want. Let's say 500. And any file under 500 megabytes, it will be accepted by your file uploader. The Stylize tab in Bubble helps speed up the design process of your app. Instead of having to recreate the design of inputs and buttons on each page, you can create it once in the Style tab and then set it for every new element that you create. And there's two ways to do it. Let's say I like the look of this button. It's a strong blue. I'm even going to add a condition, and that is when this button is hovered, the background color gets a little darker. I can test this by clicking this on and off. Okay, that looks good. Now in the appearance, I'm also going to go down, and this is a background style transition. So it's going to be a slight fade into that darker background color. I'm actually going to make this even higher, 500. A slow fade. I'm going to preview and hover over the button. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. I'm also going to give it some padding. So I'm going to go to layout. Let's remove this fixed height and let's do a 25 padding on the left, 25 pixel padding on the right, and then maybe a 15 pixel padding on the top and a 15 pixel padding on the bottom. If I like the padding, the size, the height, the colors, the animations, I can go over to appearance and in the style attribute dropdown, go create a new style. Let's call this main button, hit create. Now, whenever I add a button to the page, I can choose that style, main button, and it automatically snaps to the same thing that I created earlier. Now you can see the size is different. Unfortunately, in the layout tab, you are going to have to uncheck this, fit width to content, remove this to 0, remove this height to 0, and then it will take on the padding characteristics that you've saved. I don't know why by default it doesn't do that automatically, but still saves you tons of time. And then we can just go, this is a button. The other way to create styles is directly from the Styles tab. You can go through and delete the styles that you're not going to use to clean up your app, but you can also add style. Let's say input main. The element is an input. Go create. And you can fool around with the appearance, see how it looks here, create that style, and then use it in other places in your app. So for the app font, let's say I wanted Railway. I want this to be a 500 medium boldness. Let's make it 16 pixels and full black. I'll change the placeholder color. Let's go 5 roundness around the edges. And that's a good border color. I'll make it a bit lighter. In the padding, we're going to go 15 from the left and 15 from the right. For the top, let's also do 15, 15. And in the conditions, we'll go when this input is focused. So when someone has clicked in the input, the border color is going to be bright blue. The box shadow style is going to be outset. And the box shadow color is going to be that same blue. I'm going to copy this, paste it in. But this time, let's drop it to like 25%. So it looks like a bluish drop shadow. Now, when I add an input to the page, and we'll make this input maybe 50. When I go to appearance, I can select that input main. When I click into the inputs, it gives us the blue border and the light blue drop shadow. I can now use this style on multiple pages throughout the app. Styles work for all types of elements, so you can design it once and then reuse it over and over again. On the left-hand side of the screen, click Settings. Let's quickly walk through all of these settings. I'm going to show you which ones are important, which ones you can avoid, which settings you need to change when you launch your app, and I'll explain some of the language that's shown in Bubble to help you better understand what you're working with. So the visual layout of this tab might change by the time you're watching this, but they're pretty good at keeping things consistent. So first is your plan, and if you click change plan, right now there are 4 options. I've built lots of AI apps for myself and clients, and I've never had to upgrade anything higher than the starter plan. The growth plan and the team plan are for real large apps and for special use cases. Each subsequent app plan gives you more workflow units. Basically, a workflow unit happens whenever you run a workflow in your app. And we're going to create a lot of workflows later in this course. This never existed until about 6 months ago. You originally had unlimited amount of workflow units. They added this in because people were abusing the free plan and people were making inefficient apps. They were making outrageously long workflows, unnecessary steps, and costing Bubble a lot of money. There was tons of drama with Bubble in the community. You can read through the long forums if this is something that interests you. Why, as a business, they implemented something like this when other websites like Webflow, Squarespace, Wix, they didn't have this stuff. But in the end, they're trying to make you write clean code. And hopefully I'll teach you the methods and tactics in this course so that you never run into this issue. So on the free plan, you get 50,000 workload units. And through making all of the course and showing you all of the examples, I've only used 45 of that so far. And then you get storage. Whenever someone uploads an image or file into your database, it uses storage. On paid plans, you get higher storage. You can also pay for more storage. And then it shows you the plugins that you have installed. On the general tab, it starts with privacy and security. This first section is for the developers. You can choose whether you want a private app or show it to the public. For example, if you wanted someone to help your app, but you didn't want to give them a password, you could go everyone can edit, give them this link, and then they can hop into your app and make changes. Here you can define a password policy. In the lesson where we make a sign up and login workflow, I was allowed to write 12345 as my password. If you thought those passwords were too easy to crack, you could check this box. You could provide a password minimum length, let's say 20 characters. That'd be a really long password. Require a number, capital letter, and non-alphanumeric character. Iframes are an HTML element that lets you load a page within a page. So if you don't want anyone loading your app without your permission, you can block all frames. And then you have a cookies option here for new visitors. You can check or uncheck this. Here you can update your favicon. The favicon is the little logo that appears in your browser tab. So right here is a B for the Bubble logo. You can only do this on the paid plan because that's where you get custom domains. You can change your progress bar color. So when you're running long workflows or running an API call that takes time, like an OpenAI API call, there's a bar at the top of the page that will load. You can change that color. For a tip, you could also bring this to 0 opacity, which makes an invisible progress bar in case you don't like the look. Here are API keys if you use the Google Maps API. I won't be covering this in the course because we're not doing anything with maps. iOS appearance is if you want to turn your Bubble app into a mobile app. Here you can update those icons. You can add in custom fonts if they're not in by default in the Bubble editor. I've done this before with some system fonts, but I learned this the hard way. Those fonts don't load properly on all browsers. So for the longest time, I had the ugliest Times New Roman font in my app for everyone that used a Mac. Just avoid this. Use the default Bubble fonts. You can find something you like. Color palette is for the styles. Design import is if someone designed an app in Figma, you got a Figma file, and then import it into your Bubble app to create new pages. This feature is broken. It doesn't send the right elements to your page. So unfortunately, I don't know why they even have this here. There's been huge discussions on the forums as well about how to fix this feature. They haven't done anything with it. So just build your apps in Bubble. And then there's this app file management. You can click optimize application when you're ready to launch. And it's going to delete all unused styles, elements, plugins that you don't use in your app. And you can clean it up, make it less bloated, and therefore it will run faster. If you wanted to move your app to another platform, you can export as a JSON, but you have to upgrade to access that feature. And then there's 2 advanced options hidden at the bottom. Enable time zone override controls. And when you're building workflows with the time zone, this might come in handy. But this is a big one. Expose the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. I always check this on. And what it does is when you click an element, now when you scroll down to the bottom, you get an ID attribute field. So any plugins, any special custom code that you use, and you want to draw on the elements from the page, this is where you can use that ID. Next is the domain and email tab. To get a custom domain, you need to be on a paid plan. When you're ready to launch your app, this is where you'll put in your custom domain. They also give you email options, but you can only do that when you have a custom domain. And that makes sure that all emails sent from your Bubble app comes from your custom domain and not Bubble's domain. The language tab allows you to change the application text and messages. So when you get error messages, when you send confirmation links, when the passwords don't match, they have a bunch of text by default, but you can change all of this. SEO and meta tags is all about the SEO of your website. So this is what will be shown in Google. By default, they have all the Bubble stuff, so make sure you change that to whatever your app is about. And then there's some special SEO settings that you get on a paid plan. You can expose a sitemap file and choose which pages are shown in Google search results. You can also upload that XML file to the Google Search Console for quicker indexing. It also allows you to add custom scripts, custom code, and meta tags into your header and body. So for example, if you were running Facebook ads and you wanted to install the Facebook pixel, you'd paste that code in here. Another example is if you wanted to run intercom chat on your web app, that also requires a custom code. But I got a little hack for you. If you don't want to have the paid plan and you still want to run that stuff, you can use the HTML elements, put it on the page, and then paste your code in there. Still works the exact same way. You could choose 301 redirects from old URLs to now your Bubble app. And you can also host files on your custom domain instead of the Bubble S3 bucket by using this feature down here. Again, it's a paid upgrade only. Next is the API. So when you first launch your app, you're going to want to expose the back-end workflows. We run a bunch of back-end workflows in the eBook generator app. If you were also providing an API for other users, other websites, this would have to be enabled as well. That allows other people to use your specific features and data. If you want to add a discourse form for your app, you can input that stuff here. I wonder if they have a paid collaboration with Bubble, because I don't know why they're allowing one specific app to connect to Bubble. But the Bubble form is run on Discourse, and this is how it looks. So if you want to have your own form for your app, that is where you'll input the settings. Collaboration allows you to add other email addresses as editors, admins, or view-only profiles to your app. You can invite a user down here by inputting their email address. Let's say you wanted to invite me, but you could also transfer the app completely to that email address. This is how I've been sending your free templates. But be careful, because once you transfer an app, it is no longer yours. There is no way to get it back. Transfer is a permanent thing, while inviting is a temporary thing because you can always remove access later. Sub apps are only available on the team plan and above, so not the starter plan. Remember when I said there were some complicated use cases where you'd use a higher plan? This would be one of them. Hypothetically, let's say the AI content generator that you got for free with this course. I could have done this through sub apps, where I have one master app and everyone who uses the template is on a sub app. But then it's not your full control. One positive is whenever I make an update to the original app, I can push it to all the sub apps at once. But the negative is you don't have any control over your own code and your own app. So it didn't quite work for this use case. But if you decide to build a complicated AI app, that you want to allow lots of users to use and to sell to their own users, you might want to look into sub-applications. And last is the versions tab. So you can schedule releases on a paid plan. Let's say you wanted to release your app at midnight because not a lot of users are active. You could schedule a release for that time and have it go out automatically instead of deploying right to live whenever you're ready. And also, whenever Bubble releases a new version, there'll be a big blue button right here that says upgrade. Whenever Bubble provides new features, new updates, new bug fixes and improvements that might break your code, they give you the option to click upgrade first and then revert it if something changes in your app. I've never had a problem with this, but they do warn you. That's why they don't upgrade automatically. And there's also some beta features here that you can try, but they warn you they haven't fully tested all of these new features and there might be some problems, so be wary. The next section in our Bubble app is the workflows. So on this left side, I'm going to click workflow. And right now we have an empty slate. Workflows is what makes Bubble so powerful. You can do almost anything with workflows. Right at the start, it says click here to add an event. And by default, you have some options. You have a general tab. This is some things about the user and some time conditions. Elements, when an element is clicked or an element has an error. I've never used this before. And then we have some custom events. Think that each workflow starts with a trigger. I like to start workflows from the design tab. Now this button says click me, so I'm going to click it. And it's going to bring up an option that says add workflow. So when I click this, it automatically starts a workflow with the elements an element is clicked. But this time it's when that button is clicked. All right, again, these are triggers. I can add another one here, an element is clicked. Let's say that image. Now we have two workflows, starting with a new trigger. This one starts when the image is clicked. This one starts when the button's clicked. Then after a trigger, you can start adding actions. Here we have a lot more. I'm obviously not going to go through all of these in this course. This is also something which is probably good to go through at your leisure, but it's easy to just search for an action up here. Let's say when this button's clicked, we want to go to a different page. So obviously under navigation, we're going to go to page, and the destination, it's going to pull up all of the pages of your app. Now clicking this in the top left, these are all your pages. By default, they give you an index page. That's always the home page of your website. They give you a 404 page. That is an error page. You don't have to worry about that. And then they give you a reset password page. When you're creating user accounts, this is a dynamic page that your users will be sent to. This is a Bubble default. So I can click add new page. Let's just call this page 2. You can clone it from a previous page if you want to save on design time. Let's just start from scratch. And in the design tab, remember, always start the page by double clicking, going to layout, and then go to column. This is how I like to start it. Let's just add a text, and the text will say, welcome to page 2. Let's make this really large, and let's make it super bold. Same as last time, we're going to remove this, fit width to content. We're going to fit the height to the content. We're going to center it on the page. Sorry, let's make this 0. And then we can click the page and make it a center alignment, and it snaps it right to the center. Now going back to our first page and back into workflows, when this button is clicked, it's going to go to page. Now we'll see that page 2 in the drop-down box. And there we go. We have a very simple workflow. Let's test it by going to preview. And now when I click the button, it's going to load page 2. Now workflows can get very complicated. I've had workflows with like 30 steps. We're going to be using this a lot in the course, but this is just a basic introduction to what workflows do. The next section in our app is the data tab. This is very important. I want you to think of the data tab like a CSV file, like an Excel spreadsheet. You create data types and then it's stored as app data. By default, you already have a data type, that's users. And obviously when a person signs up for your web app, they have to enter their email address. You can add new data types here, and we're going to be creating ebooks. So that is a very simple data type. I'm going to hit create, And now I can add new fields to that data type. But let's add fields to the user. Okay, when a user signs up, what do you want to collect? I'm going to click create new field. You know, most apps like to collect a first name. So I can write first name. What is that field type? Obviously, it's not a number. It's not a date. It's a text. Hit create. We're going to go create new field. Maybe we want a last name too. That's also a text. And then just for an example, hit create new field. Let's go age. I know no app collects that, but I want to show you the different field types, and that is a number. Let's hit create. So now in the app data, the users have these new columns. They have age, first name, and last name. We can manually create a new entry by clicking this, and we go, let's say the age is 30. First name will go Wes, last name GPT. And for the email, we can go heywesfrank@gmail.com. Now when I click create, it's going to create a new entry in your database. And sometimes you have to click refresh. And there we go. We have a new entry, Wes GPT, in the database. Now let's go back to data types. We're going to go to eBook, and we're going to create a new field. And let's say title. Okay, this is a text field. Hit create. Now if I go to design, I can look through here and add an input box. Let's drag it above the button. We'll just use the standard style for now. I'm going to go to layout. Let's make it 50 so it's a bit bigger. I'm also going to center it on the page. And then let's make a margin 25 pixels from the top. We're keeping this all even. Now in the appearance tab, in the placeholder, let's type title instead. And then in workflows, when this button is clicked, instead of it going to a new page, I'm going to click this for an action, go down to data, create a new thing. The type is going to be a new ebook. I'm going to set the field. You know, we created title in the data type, and then that's going to be a dynamic option. I'm going to scroll down here to input title value. So whatever is put in that title's input, okay, that's what input title's value means. It's going to create a new entry with that information. And then I'm going to add another action, go down to element actions, and we're going to reset inputs. Now let's go preview this page. Okay, we have the input title. Let's pretend the title of this ebook was, I wrote the keto diet. Now I'm going to click the button. It's going to clear the input just like we did. And if I go into the data tab, into app data, look at a new entry was created called the keto diet under ebooks. So this is how we're hooking the design to the workflows to your database. Very simple, very intuitive. We can do so many things. And now we're very close to start building our AI app. For this exercise, we're going to be building an email lead capture form. If you've just been watching up to this point, I want you to get your hands dirty. This is a great exercise that will combine everything that you've learned from the previous lessons. And after building something like this, I think it's going to give you a great grasp on how Bubble works. This is what we'll be designing. It's an email capture form for a real estate company. And I want you to think in a 3-step format, because every page in your web app is going to be 3 steps. The first step is the design, or the elements on the page. The second step is the workflows. And the third step is the database. You connect those 3 steps, you can build anything that you can imagine. So let's take a look at the design portion first. We have a background image on the page. We have a middle group. We have a text element. We have a few input boxes, first name, last name, email address, and phone number. And then we have a button that says, I'm ready to see this place. I don't want you to think about anything else at this point. Just what is on the page, what are the elements I need to create, and how do I get it to look the way I want it to look. If you want to create this page without my guidance, you can pause the lesson now and see how well you can do. If not, we're going to be creating this page from scratch. So follow along, pause the video at each step, and we'll create the building blocks together. Start by creating a blank page. Now let's click inside the page. We're going to go to layout. We're going to change this to column. And I like to change the default builder width so I can see the whole page. So let's drop this to something like 600. The height too, I like to fit on the page. So let's do 600 as well. Now we have a background of a house. I remember generating this picture in Midjourney, but you can use any picture that you find on the web for this exercise. So double click on the page. Let's go to appearance, and we're going to scroll down to background style. Instead of flat color, we want it to be an image, and then we can click to upload our image. There we go, it's the house. I'm going to center the image on the page and then make the image as wide as the parent element. So it's going to stretch appropriately with the page size. Okay, if you're looking at this page, what is next? Think of the page as layers, layering up. So we have the background layer, that's the picture. The next layer is this black box in the center of the page. This is a group. And you can see it's a little bit transparent. That's just for design, and it's showing the picture in the background. So let's do that. I'm going to scroll down, find the group. We're going to stretch it onto the page. Then we're going to go down to background style. We're going to make it a flat color. And then that group is black. So let's drag this down to black. Then you'll see this percentage in the bottom right. That is opacity. So 100% opacity means it's very thick color. We want to make it a little see-through. So let's drop that to something like 75%. And we can see how it looks. It looks pretty good. We can barely see the image in the background. Let's give it some roundness in the borders. So I'm going to click this, go to 5, and there it is, just so it's not as straight edged. We can go to layout. We're going to change this to column as well. Let's center it on the page. I'm going to uncheck fixed width, and instead we're going to give it a max width of about 550 pixels. So no matter how large the page is, it's not going to stretch past that amount. For min width, I can just put this at 0. For height, it's not a big deal. We're going to fit everything to content. Just so we can design properly, let's just keep this at 250. If we made this 0, it would shrink the box completely, and now we can't build with it. So we can change it to 0 after we have some elements in that group, but we'll keep it at 250. But it's stuck to the top of the page, so we're going to have to click the background, and then we're going to have to change the container alignment to center. And there we go. The next layer is the elements on top of the group. We have the text, the input boxes, and the button. They're all on the same layer. So let's go grab a text element. Let's drag it into the group. We can write whatever we want, but I'll use the real estate example. Let's detach the style. We're going to make it custom. You can choose whatever font you like. I like Roboto. Let's make it a bit thicker because it is a heading, and a bit larger. Let's go 28 pixels. And so it really stands out. We're going to make it white. Line spacing, I like an even 1.5. That's the pixel gap in between each line of text. And going to layout here, we're going to uncheck fixed width so it stretches all across the group. I like to bring everything back to 0. Let's do min height 0 as well. And then going to appearance, let's center the text. We can create margins manually by going to layout within each element and then changing the top margin, let's say 25. It's going to bring it down from the group, but I like to do it an easier way. So I'm going to take this away. I'm going to click on the group. Let's go down to padding, and padding is the amount of pixels that's going to be all around the group. So padding from the top, let's make this 25. It's the same as a margin. Padding from the bottom, let's do 25 pixels as well. And we'll do the same for left and right. Next, we need some input boxes. So I'm going to scroll down. Let's grab the input element, drag it into the group. The placeholder is going to be first name. I'm going to detach the style so we can make it ourselves. Again, I'm going to choose Roboto for the font. Let's make the text black. The placeholder color, let's make it more of a gray. I'm going to remove the borders, and we're going to make the background style a flat color and make it white. Maybe let's make the placeholder color a bit darker so we can see it. I'm going to remove all of the conditions. Let's go to layout. This doesn't need to be a fixed width. It can stretch. I'm going to make this 0. For the height, let's do 45 pixels. And we'll add some more padding here. Let's take away the top and the bottom because we have a fixed height. But let's make it 15 from the left and 15 from the right. Let's click on the group and select Apply Gap Spacing Between Elements. That means it automatically creates margins in between every element in this group, so we don't have to keep doing it manually. And let's make it a simple 15. If I need multiple input boxes, I like to click on it, Control C, Control V, copy and paste. But this one is going to be last name. And we can make this on the same row by clicking both of these, holding Shift, right-clicking, group elements in a row container. There, it puts them next to each other. Let's put a little space in the middle. I'm going to click on first name, go to layout, and we're going to give a margin of 25. Next, we need to add an email address and a phone number. So let's take one of these, copy, I'm going to paste it in. Let's remove that margin because we don't need it in this row. We are going to change that to email address. And let's copy this, paste it in again. This time it's going to be phone number. And then we need a button at the bottom. So I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to grab a button. Let's drag it in here. Again, I'm going to change it to Roboto font. And we'll make the background color. Let's make it maybe a green, just like this. The button is going to say, I'm ready to see this place. We're going to go to layout, remove the fixed width, make this a 0 again, make the min height a 0. Let's increase the top and bottom padding, makes the button a bit bigger. And I think the font size is a little small, so let's bump that up to 24. And that's it for the design portion. We have finished step 1 of creating this page. For the next step, I like to make sure the database is set up and ready to go. So I'm looking on this page and I see that we're going to need 4 fields. We're going to need a first name, a last name, an email address, and a phone number. So I'm going to go to data. We're going to create a new data type called lead, hit create, and the lead data type has 4 fields. So I'm going to click create a new field. The first one is first name, and the field type is a text. Hit create. The next one is last name, and that field type is also text. Hit create. The next one is email address, and that field type is also a text. And the last one is phone number, and that's actually not a number. That is also stored as a text. So we're going to hit create. Now we have a data type lead with 4 fields, which means we're ready to connect the workflow. So let's first go to design and make sure each input box is in the correct format. So I'm going to click first name and see that it's text. Let's click last name. This is also text. Let's click email address. We can change that content format to email. And then for phone number, we can change that content format to US phone. Now I'm going to click on the button, go add workflow, and start building out what we want to happen. So the first step in the action, we're going to go to data, create a new thing, and we're going to create a lead, the data type we just created. And now let's set the fields. So we created 4 fields. The first one was first name, and that's going to be input first name's value. Very simple. The next field was last name, and that's going to be input last name's value. The third field is email address, and that is going to be input email address value. And then the last field was phone number, and that's going to be input phone number's value. So someone fills out the lead form and it creates a data type. But how can we make this workflow even better? Well, I can think of 3 extra steps. For the next step, I want to email my salesperson this information. So let's go to email. We're going to send email. And let's say my salesperson's email was my email, heywesfrank@gmail.com. For the sender name, I'll just put Wes GPT. For the subject, I'm going to write new lead. And for the body, I'm just going to fill in all of those details that we created in step 1. So I can actually go insert dynamic data, result of step 1, first name, make a new line, do this again, result of step 1, last name, make a new line, insert dynamic data, result of step 1, email address, and then make another line, insert dynamic data, result of step 1, phone number. You can always go to rich text editor and format it properly. I like this. It's on each individual line. Maybe I'll add something like first name, last name, email address, phone number, I'm going to hit save. So when a new lead is created, it sends an email to me of that information. For another step, we should probably alert the user that we have stored their information and someone will get back to them shortly. So for that, I like to use browser notifications. That is a special plugin called Browser. It's free to install and it makes notifications within your browser. You can always build them from scratch in Bubble, but I like the look of browser notifications. It just looks a lot cleaner. So for that, we got to add the browser element onto the page. We can drop it wherever. I'll just drop it there. I'm going to go to workflow. Now add a new action. And then under element actions, it has added all of these browser ones. Let's do show alert pop-up in browser. And for the message, I'm going to write, thank you for submitting your information. An agent will be in touch with you shortly. And then I like to reset the relevant inputs so it clears all of the data from the form. And now we've designed a complete email capture form. We have the design, we have the page and the elements, we have the lead data type, and we have the 4-step workflow. Okay, let's test it out. I'm going to hit preview. Let's type in a first name. Let's say John Smith. Email address will be johnsmith44@hotmail.com. His phone number would be something like 519-242-7764. I'm going to click I'm ready to see this place. Boom, we get a notification. Thank you for submitting your information. I'm going to click OK. It clears everything out. Let's go back into Bubble. Let's go to the database. We're going to go to app data. And there we go. We got a new lead. John Smith. That's his email address. That's his phone number. And here's the email in my Gmail. New lead. And that's all the information. If you want to restrict access to your app to only users that have registered, you're going to need to create a sign up workflow. And user accounts are like everything that you've experienced every time you're on the web. If you have a Gmail account, you need an email address and a password. If you have a Facebook account, you need an email address and a password. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, ChatGPT. All of these websites require the user to create an account and then log in at a future date. So I create a login page here. Now you can build it from scratch, but luckily Bubble has some pre-built components. So in the top, I'm going to click components and scroll all the way down, and they have 2 sign up and login elements. They have one that is a pop-up and one that is on the page. You can choose the style that you like. Let's do the pop-up. So I'm going to drag this in and it brings this component to the page. So it gives us 4 inputs, the name, email address, and password, and then re-enter the password. Then we have a sign up button, and then this little section down here that says already have an account, log in. In Bubble, you need separate workflows for both signing in and logging in. So this component is already setting you up for that. If you look on the left side, they have an element hidden. And if I click this to view, it now shows a login component. So this component is actually both the sign up component and the login component, with the login component hidden. Okay, reveal hidden. And what's basically going on is if I go to workflows, when that text is clicked, it's going to hide the group sign up and then show the group login. And then when that new text on the login element is clicked, it's going to hide the group login and show the group sign up. So I'm going to make one more workflow here. We'll go when the page is loaded, we are going to toggle that pop-up. And now when I click preview and the page loads, that pop-up should come up. Perfect. And when I click this text, it's going to change to login. Click create a new account. It's going to change to sign up. So this is the way that we'll be able to distinguish both of our workflows. Let's first do the sign up workflow. So I'm going to click the sign up button and then add workflow and then click to add an action. So the sign up and login workflows are under the account tab. So I'm going to look down here and then sign the user up, and it wants 2 values. It wants an email address and a password. So I'm going to go back to design. I'm going to see what these inputs are called. I'm going to double click on the email and it's called sign up email. And then the password is called sign up password. And then the re-enter password is called input sign up re-enter password. Okay, simple enough. So back in the workflow, let's go email. We are going to scroll down to input sign up emails value. Now for password, we are going to get input sign up passwords value. Now quickly back in design and clicking on the password, you can see the content format is password. You can change the content format of the input box. Basically what the content format of password does is when the user is typing in their password, it's going to show a bunch of asterisks. So it's not going to show which characters, which letters, which numbers they're using. In the sign the user up action, there's an option to require a password confirmation. And I'm going to check this. And that confirmation is going to be input sign up re-enter passwords value. We have the option to send an email to confirm that email address. I'll just leave that unchecked. And then we can go remember the email yes, so the person doesn't have to keep logging in whenever they come back to your app. So that will sign the user up. And now we got to decide, what do we want to happen after the user signed up? Well, I think a good idea is to navigate them to a different page in your app. And let's go to that page 2, that page we created earlier. So I'm going to go to my data tab, to app data, and to users. And I'm going to delete my entry that we made earlier. And then go back to the page. Let's refresh it. And let's test this. So it wants us to enter the email. So we'll go heywesfrank@gmail.com. Password, I'll just go 12345, same thing, and sign up. And it's going to send us to page 2. Now in the entry, there we go. We have Hey Wes Frank, the email address. This new user was created right now. We can also add some fields. And back in the design tab, this has name. So I'm going to go to data. Let's go to data types, user. We'll delete first name and then we'll delete last name. And we'll just create a field called name, an all-encompassing name. It'll get both. Make that a text. Go back to workflow. We're adding a new field, name, and that is going to be input sign up names value. And then back in design, I can make this input should not be empty, which makes it a mandatory field when the user's signing up. Now I'm going to show the login and see what these are called. This is called input login email. This is called input login password. Now I'm going to click this button, go add workflow. We're going to create a new workflow, this time for logging in. And the action under account is log the user in. The email is going to be, scroll down, input logins email and that value. And then the password is going to be input login passwords value. Again, we can remember the email and keep the user logged in. What do we want to happen next? Let's go to navigate and let's go to that page 2. Now, when I refresh the app and we go back to the login page, I can go to this, already have an account login. Let's try heywesfrank@gmail.com. But let's do the wrong password. Let's go 123456. When I click login, we didn't find an account with those login credentials. We know it's 12345, hit login, and it shoots us to page 2. If you're anything like me, the design portion of app building is the hardest part. I'm not a designer. I'm really good with logic and workflows and coding, but when it comes to design, I suck. So how do you make your apps look pretty? How do you make the elements look like they're supposed to? Well, I have a little hack for you. As you're browsing the web, take a look at all the other apps or websites and see if you can find any of them that you like the look of. Okay, I like Intercom. I think it's very clean. So I would like to grab the style of Intercom's elements. And I do that with a Chrome extension called CSS Viewer. You can download that for free from the Chrome extension store. And when you click on it, you can hover over elements on the page and see its properties. So I'm going to hover over this button and we can see its font that it uses on the button. We can see the font size, the background color, the height, the width, the padding. So if I wanted to create buttons that match the style, I would press F, that freezes this. Let's copy the color here. I'm gonna go back in my app, we're gonna change this button and we're gonna change that color just like that. And now it is 16 font. So I'm gonna turn this to 16 instead of 15. And it says start free trial. Let's try to copy it exactly. Now it has an arrow there. You can't add icons to button, but you can turn a text into a button. That's maybe a lesson for another time, but let's continue trying to make this button. And the height is 48. So I'm going to go to layout, change that height to 48. The width is 168, but it looks like it's because of 24 padding on the left and right. So I'm not going to make this a fixed width. Let's delete that. We're going to fit width to content. And I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to make the padding, or it's already 24 by 24 by default. Let's remove the top and bottom padding. That will center it. Going back, it looks like the radius is 32 pixels all the way around. That's what makes it almost like an oval shape. So back in here, I'm going to go to appearance, scroll down, and the roundness, I'm going to go to 32. And it doesn't have a shadow. This is all bubble defaults for their elements. And there we go. That's the intercom button on my page. We can do that for something like inputs too. Same thing. I'm going to go to CSS viewer and let's see what's going on here. So the font size is 16 with a 500 weight. Go back to this input, detach the style. We're going to make this 16 and 500. The color of the text is 2222222. That is like a gray. And let's paste it in there like that. The height is 65 and 440 width. So in the layout, width was 440 and the height was 65. I'm going to remove some conditions here. And the border is this color. It's a solid. So I'll go to appearance and we'll drop that in like that. And then all the way at the bottom, it says a radius of 10 pixels. So let's make that a 10. And I'll delete the placeholder here. There we go. We have intercom's input box and intercom's button. Also looks like it has maybe a little bit of a drop shadow. So I could add that here if I wanted to be really particular. Let's do an outset. And that's good by default. You know, design is not the be all end all, but it can take a bad app and make it a great app just by looking good. So I recommend researching all the different websites, seeing a style that works for you, and then trying to recreate it with your elements. Now you're going to be using a lot of buttons all over your app, so you can always just make it once, copy it, paste it again. I'm going to move it like that. Change the text. This time it's click me. Copy this input, paste it. We're going to move it to second. You know, you can make multiple inputs, copy them, paste them on different pages. The cool thing about Bubble is you just got to make the element once, and then you can use it over and over again. By default, the pages in Bubble are responsive, which means that the elements will grow or shrink depending on the size of the page. This is important for mobile, right? A web page on desktop is going to look different than a mobile page, which means you might have to go in and adjust some responsive settings so it fits nicely on the mobile screen. I thought there's no better way to show this off than by fixing the eBook generator app. This is the free app that you get ownership of. Let's edit this generate page into mobile so you can see how the responsiveness settings work. All right, on your Bubble page on the left-hand side, instead of UI Builder, you're going to hover over responsive, and it's going to bring you to a similar page. The only difference is this bar at the top and the different default screen settings. So they give you a 1200 screen. That's more like a laptop screen. 992 is a bit smaller. This is the width. 768. The default, this is like a tablet size. And then 320 is the smallest mobile that you'll see right now. So you can either click each of these to see how it looks on the different screen sizes, or you can use this bar and drag it up and down. So I'm going to go to the 320 and see how this page looks on mobile. And you know, it's pretty good, but it's not quite there yet. First off, this header looks really weird. And knowing how mobile headers look, it might be tough to fit in all of these elements. We need to fit in the Generate tab, the eBooks tab, the Profile tab, and the Upgrade tab. Lucky for us, there's a plugin for this. I'm going to go to Plugins, Add Plugins, and search for Slide Bar Menu. We're going to install this. It was built by Bubble, so it works well with any Bubble app. Hit Done. And now this plugin gives you a slide bar menu. So in the Design tab, I'm going to go to the Pages here, and then the Header Reusable Element. Reusable elements are elements that you can use on multiple pages. This is just for quick designing. And I use this header on multiple pages within the app. So it's nice that I can make changes on one page and then it appear in multiple pages. So I'm going to scroll down and try to find this element. Here it is, slide bar menu. Let's pop it in and let's make it a bit smaller. That is pretty big. Let's go 25 by 25. How's that? Okay, let's center it and we'll move it all the way to the right. But this is not going to be visible on page load. And we're going to collapse when hidden, which is going to suck everything to the right again. But we do want that menu to appear when the screen size is mobile. So we can go back to responsive, and we're going to show this for now. And let's go to conditions, and we're going to start a condition, and we're going to go when the current page width is less than, and we can actually find when the header starts looking wonky. It starts to look wonky around here. Here is where it snaps the buttons below the logo. So I'm looking on this left side here, and it's around 450. So to be safe, we'll go 500. So type in 500 here, and it's going to show this element. So when I drag it up, it disappears. And as soon as the screen size goes below 500, boom, it shows. I want to do the opposite for this group. So we're going to make a condition. We'll go when the current page width is less than 500, it's going to hide this group. Now in layout, we got to go collapse when hidden. And now this is pretty cool. We have a mobile header once the user is using this app on his mobile phone. In the slide bar menu, we have to set its options. So we have one that is generate. We have one that is eBooks. We have one that is profile. And then we had one button that was upgrade. So in our workflows, we have to create an event for each of those slide bar menu options. And it's under elements. A slide bar menus option is clicked. And the element is slide bar menu. We go only when this slide bar menu's current option is, and we can do generate. It is going to navigate to the generate page. I'm going to copy this workflow, paste it in, but this time it's going to be eBooks, and the eBooks is going to go to the page eBooks. Copy again, paste it, this time profile. That is going to go to the profile page. Copy and paste one more time. This time it is upgrade, and that is going to go to the upgrade page. Now going back to our generate page, if I zoom in all the way, eventually that top bar disappears and we now have the slide bar menu. And there we go. We can go to each of these pages now from a mobile menu. Now we should also format the inputs down here, especially the drop down boxes. This looks weird. And I like to do it by double clicking one of the input boxes. This is the drop down. Go to layout, and we're going to set a min width. Right now the min width is 0, so we could keep shrinking the page and it would get infinitely small. And you can't even read the numbers if it was this small. But if I made the min width something like 150, it would not shrink below 150 and therefore would set itself on its own line. So I'm going to make each of these 150. This would be minimum 152. And now I'm going to take this group and I'm going to center everything. And then there was some special design on this model dropdown. So I'm going to go to conditions, add a new condition, and say when the current page width is less than 500, its max width is infinite. And there we go. So I can expand this and we can see kind of what happens when the page starts to shrink. Elements snap around the page. It's always fitting. It always looks good. Bubble may make updates, changes, or you make edits in some pages that will trigger errors in other places of your application. This happens all the time. We're all human. And if there is an error, you won't be allowed to launch before the errors are cleared. The errors are shown at the top of the page. This is showing 2 issues. So I'm going to click this, and then you can click on each of the error and it will send you to that page. All right, this error sent me to the generate page, and specifically this text box right here. It's telling me that display is no longer an option. So I can click this and change it to templates display. We have one more error. I'm going to click this. It's the same page. Now it's the image and same thing. So I'm going to click this, go to template, and it's going to autofill that image. Now the errors are cleared and I can launch the app. This happens all the time as a developer. You'll be playing around with your data types or making changes on the page. Let's say I didn't want this generation template anymore and I delete this and all of a sudden I have an issue. I'm going to click it. Looks like deleting that field caused an error somewhere in the 20 pages of the app. So let's click in. It brings me to this workflow and this first step. So I can either change the type or delete this altogether and clear the issue. As a new Bubble developer, I want you to try to fix the errors yourself. Again, they just happen. Go through them, click on each. It will send you to the workflow or the page. Try to see what's going on. Try to fix the error or remove the step altogether. It's a fantastic way to learn the platform. But if you get stuck, you've tried a bunch of things, it won't work, I can help you out as support for this class. So in your template or new application, go over to Settings, General, and then under Application Rights, change this private app to everyone can edit. Then you can copy this whole URL, open up Gmail, send me an email, go, hey, I'm having problems with my application and can't solve it myself. Paste the URL, briefly describe the issue, and then I can take this URL from my side. Let's say I opened up an incognito browser, I'd paste it in, and now I can see your application, see all the errors you're experiencing, and try to fix them. When this is all done, don't forget to change this back to private app, just in case that URL gets leaked. You don't want people you don't trust coming in and making changes or seeing your user data. Could be a huge privacy concern. Another way to troubleshoot issues is to use the debug mode equals true. So on your URL, append $debug_mode equals true. Every time you preview the app, it will automatically append that to the URL. And now this gives you a bar at the bottom of the page. You have normal, slow, and step-by-step. You can also inspect elements. So if I click inspect and then this drop down, it gives me all the elements on the page. I can click in, let's say group generate. I can see its width, its height, any conditions attached to the group. I can click into the condition. It's saying current page name. I can click this and see that the name is autoblog. So it's a very organized way to look into what's happening on the page. If you click the red warning sign, you can get immediate errors right into the console. This is telling me that the plugin code is out of date. So I would just go in and delete the plugin or update it. But if you want to see what's happening with your workflows in the back end, that's where you use these three buttons down here. If I click slow or step by step, and then I do something on the page, it's going to walk me through what the workflow is. And if anything's getting caught, if it's not working as expected, we can catch what's happening and then fix the issue. So I have to input two keywords. Let's say basketball shoes and the NBA. I'm going to click generate posts while step by step is highlighted. And now I can see each step in the workflow. So the workflow is when that button is clicked and the keyword's value is greater than 1. And you'll see that only when is green, which means that is a successful condition. Those two conditions are met. If this was red, that would mean one or all the conditions have not been met. I can click run next. It's going to reset the relevant inputs. I can click run next and look, it removed the keywords. So that step worked. Now it's setting the state of the page and the value is 2 because we had two keywords. Loading is yes. I go next. It's going to show an alert pop up in the browser that says your articles are being written by the AI. Now if I click next, boom, that is the alert. Everything's working as expected. And now it's triggering Autoblogger 1 for basketball shoes and NBA, those two keywords. I'll click run next. Now this is the custom workflow, Autoblog 1, hit next. We're calling ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo the API call. And we're saying write a short and simple title for an article about basketball shoes. I'll click run next and boom, we get an error. So we see exactly where the error is happening on the workflow. It's happening on the Autoblog custom event. And this error is I don't have the correct API key in. So I would just add my secret key and then test again. To launch your app to the public, there are a few steps you need to go through first. Number 1, you need to fix all the issues that are present in your app. In the top here, there's some red text that says 2 issues. So I'm going to click on this. You can click each issue and it will take you to that page. Here it's highlighting this step in the workflow, and this was an accident, so I'm just going to delete this. That removes the first issue. Second issue, I'm going to click this, and I didn't fill out where the summary is supposed to come from. So result of step 1, and I'm going to go summary here. There we go. That clears all of the issues. Next, you need to make sure you're on a paid plan. Now, Bubble gives you a free 14-day trial. You can always launch your app on that trial, start acquiring customers for that 14 days, see how it works out. If you're gaining some traction, you can continue to pay. If it's not gaining any traction, you can cancel before the free trial is over and not pay any money. So I'm on the starter plan here. Then I want you to go to General, scroll down and change your favicon. By default, it's the Bubble logo. I'm going to change it to an icon of the YouTube logo. Click Open. Ideally, this will be your logo. Then we want to go to SEO and meta tags and fill in the top 3 input boxes. So the title of your app, let's say it was eBook generator. The site name, I'm going to write the best eBook generator on the net. And then your description. I'm writing generate full 100,000 word ebooks with a click of a button, all done with the best AI language models. This will help you get indexed by Google. When your website is shown in the search results, it will show these 3 things. You can also change the thumbnail use for links. So if someone shares your website, this will show up as the image preview. Next, I want you to go to General and scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you're going to click this button, Optimize Application. So it's going to analyze your app, and it's going to list out everything that you haven't used that's sitting dormant, any elements, any text, any plugins. All of this stuff bogs down the speed of your app. So if it's not used, I like to click Clean App. It removes all of those things from your web app, and now your website is going to be lightning fast. Next, we're going to connect a custom domain. So I'm going to go to domain/email. We're going to input the domain name that we've purchased. I use Porkbun to buy my domains. You could use GoDaddy, Google Domains, Namecheap. The choice is yours. I'm going to scroll down here and I want to use itsarticles.com. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to click set up this domain. If you don't use Google Maps, you can ignore this input box. I'm going to hit cancel. Then it's going to give me a list of a bunch of A records that I need to add. There are 8 here. So let's start adding them. I'm going to copy this value. In my Porkbun, I'm going to go to DNS settings. We're adding an A address record. The host is left blank and the answer is that value. I'm going to hit add. I'm going to keep this going here. I'll copy this. I'll paste that into the answer. Hit add again. Now I'm going to complete this for the rest of the address records. For these ones in the host, they want me to write www, and I'll start pasting those in as well. Here are all the address records that I've added, and then I can go over to Bubble and click check my settings. If you've done it all correctly, you'll get this message, and it says you're all set, itsarticles.com or your custom domain is working and ready to go. And now all you have to do is go up to the top corner and click main, and then deploy to live. This means that all the changes you have made on the development side of your app will be pushed to the main branch. You have to fill out a little description. This is good for your history if you need to revert back changes. I'm going to write official launch of app and click confirm. And there we go, deployment successful. We can keep editing or go to the live site. There it is. If you go to itsarticles.com/email capture form, my custom domain, you get this, which is what we've been building in this course. Now, the good thing about the 2 branches is that I can make some edits in my app. Let's say I was building out a brand new feature. I wouldn't have to worry about anybody trying it out before it's ready. I could spend a week testing, modifying, editing, adding new pages, changing the look, the design, the colors, the logo, and your users on your live custom domain won't see a thing. But when you're eventually ready, all you have to do is go back up to main and then click deploy to live again. Right now, this button is faded because I haven't made any new changes. But if I did make a change, let's say I added a button to this page, let's call it button, and then I go back to main, There we go. We can now deploy this change to live. This lesson idea comes from student Richard Stewart, and he writes, Wes, for the life of me, I can't figure out how to do a typical nested column within a column or row. I'm trying to lay out the page as attached in this screenshot. Any tips or advice would be greatly appreciated. This is the page he's trying to create, and what he's basically asking is, how do you create the groups, rows, columns, so that you can get a page that looks like this? When you get really good at building in Bubble, this step becomes automatic. But for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how I visualize this page. The first group is the entire page. And I'm going to draw a line all the way around the page. And that is a column because we have elements that stack one on top of the other. Within this column page, it looks like we have two separate groups. We have this first group up here, and then we have this second group down here. For the first group, it looks like it's a row, and I'm going to draw a line around this because there are elements next to each other. And in this row, we have one element of text, and then another group that looks like it is a column group because this text element stacks on top of this group. And then it has one more smaller nested group, which is a row, two buttons next to each other, and you get a row group within a column group within a row group. This next one is very similar, although it looks a bit bigger. First, we have a row group, and I'm going to draw this bad line around the group. You can visualize it as it being split in the middle. On the right side is an image element. On the left side, it looks like it is another column group of elements stacked one above each other. We have a text element here, a larger text element, another text element, and then two row groups, one here, and within this row group up here, there is two column groups, one there, and text element on top of each other. They look the exact same. All right, let's build this out in Bubble. All right, I created a brand new page. First, I'm going to double click on the page. We're going to change that container layout to column. I like to shrink the default builder width so I can see everything on the screen. If you have a larger laptop or computer screen, you can probably make this higher. I'm working on a small one right now. First, we have a row group. So I'm going to scroll down and find the group element. There it is. Drag it onto the page. I immediately like to change the height of it so I can see it better. We'll fiddle around with these values after. And the layout here is a row. Next, we have a text element, a heading. Let's drop the heading in here. I'm going to detach the style. Let's make it large, something like 24, maybe a bit bigger, 30. And we'll make this really bold. Now there's a text element and then some buttons. So let's drag the text element in first. I'm going to go to layout, go next, move it to the right side. I'll put some placeholder text in there. Then there were two buttons. Let's drag them in. This one will be button 1. I'm going to go Control C, Control V. This will be button 2. I'm going to make this one white and the border is going to be black with the text being black. Because there are too many elements in this row group right now and the page width is very small, it starts to stack the most recent elements below. But don't worry, this is still a row group. If I hit preview, it's now able to stretch across the entire page and you see it's all in a row. So I'm going to move this button once to the right. Then I'm going to click on it, hold shift to the second button, right click, group elements in a row container because these two buttons are in a row. And sometimes the elements get a little funky on the page, but don't worry, everything's working as it's supposed to. I'm going to click on this button. I'm going to write 10 pixels just so I can click on the group that these buttons are in because I want to select this, hold shift, select the text, right click, group elements in a column container. And that's going to snap everything down. Now it looks like about half and half. So I'm going to click on this text, go to layout. Let's shrink the min width down. And by default, all the elements in a group is going to be 50% max width. But you could even change this. If I click the pixel button right here and change it to percentage, I'll go to 50%, you'll see nothing's changed. And then I'll hit the down arrow and watch this text shrink. 49, 48, 47%, 46. So you can even design your groups. If this element was 1/3 of the group, you do something like 33%, but we want it to be half. So I'm going to go right back up to 50%. Then I'm going to click in the group, click apply gap spacing between elements, and let's go 25 pixels between the elements. We're going to do the same for this group. This time I'll do 15, make the buttons closer together, and then I can even grab this text element, go 25 pixels below, and then click on the overall group, shrink the min height, shrink the min width, and then make it 50 pixels from the right and 50 pixels from the left edges. Let's also do 50 pixels from the top. Okay, let's clean this up a bit. All these min widths are going to shrink everything down. There's the min height, shrink that down. Same thing with this. You could always select fit width to content. That's going to shrink the groups. Then I'm going to center this group on the page. Let's make it stretch to a max of 900 pixels. Preview the page and we get this. All right, let's do it one more time for the group below it. So we need to start with a row group again. Let's click the group element, drag it onto the page. We'll do the same thing, 900 pixels wide. We're going to go 250 height just so we can see the group. This group above it, let's make it 50 pixels from the bottom. And the same thing, we did 50 pixels from the right here, 50 pixels from the left, just to give some space in between the edges of the page, just so it's not stretched right to the end. Let's make that group a row container. And first we need a group element, a column group. I'm going to drag it in. Let's shrink that min width. Then I'm going to find an image element, drag that in as well. They're going to go right next to each other. The image is on the right side though. Let's uncheck fixed width. I'm going to remove the min width and it's going to stretch at 50% of the group. There we go. Let's click on the overall group, apply gap spacing between elements, column gap of 25 pixels. That gives us the space in between the two elements. I'm going to click on the group. Let's make it a bit larger so we can see what's going on. First, we have a text, then a heading text, and then a smaller text. I like to quickly grab the text that I already have on the page. So I'm going to take this, copy it, paste it in. Now I'm going to grab the heading, copy it, paste it into the group. I'm going to copy this text, paste it in. Let's do 15 pixels from this top text. Then we need to create two column groups and stack them in a row. So for the first column group, let's paste it in. Let's make this one bold. Then we'll grab this text, paste it in. I will shrink it a bit. I'm going to click this text, hold shift, click this one, right click, group elements in a column container. Let's grab that, copy, paste, hold these two groups, right click, group elements in a row container. Then I'm going to click on one of the groups and add a 15 pixel margin. Okay, there we go. Then there are two buttons down here in a row. That reminds me a lot of this element up here. So I'm going to click on it, copy it, click inside the group, paste it in. We are going to add a margin below this as well. I'm going to move that button to the right and we're just going to make it look like text. So let's make the font color black, the background style nothing, no borders. And then I'm going to write sign up arrow. We can even shrink this width a bit and remove some of the padding. For the image, let's grab a dummy placeholder. I'm going to save this image to my computer. Let's click on the image element, upload a static image. Here we go. I'm going to click on the vertical alignment to stretch it to the full ends of the group. If you're using a real picture, you need to use its actual dimensions so it doesn't look stretched. I do the keep element aspect ratio fixed and find exactly what your image is and put that ratio in here. Let's preview the page and it looks like this. Find and replace is one of the most powerful operations in Bubble. And even though it's a very small description, look, it's only 3 sentences, I use it almost all the time in my app development. Let me show you some example use cases so that you can use find and replace in your own apps. One of the things I use it for is for formatting API calls. So this is a standard API call to OpenAI. We are calling GPT-4. And you can tell that in the system content message and in the body content message, it's tough to format your entire prompt. Like if I was to click in here and click enter, nothing happens. What if I wanted new lines? What if I wanted to add format in HTML? Everything is in one sentence. It's badly organized. Well, we can get around that with find and replace. A word of note, find and replace doesn't work on basic plain text. It needs to be dynamic text because we are adding an operation to the end of it. So I like to usually use something within a data type or a workflow or something on the page that is static so that I can always find that static text and then replace it with dynamic text. For example, let's delete this. We're going to insert dynamic data. Let's say current pages article. So the page has an article data type, and I'm going to use its unique ID because that is static in Bubble. That will never change. And then I'm going to go down to find and replace right here. It opens up the new box. For the text to find, we're going to find the exact same thing. So current page articles, unique ID, and then we're replacing it with whatever we want for the text. And you'll notice we now get a rich text editor. So I can click on this and format it even more. Okay, for example, write me an article about the user's keyword, and I'm going to hit enter, go format equals HTML, 2 enters again, language equals Spanish, 2 enters again. We'll go background, you are a comedian. So I have formatted this prompt a lot better. It's a lot easier for me to read. And what's going to happen in the system content message for the API, it is going to find the current page's article unique ID. Let's say that's a 10-digit number. We are finding and replacing that exact ID. So it's a wash. It's like nothing happened, and it's replacing it with this text. It's pretty much like we're putting this text in this box. Another option is to use arbitrary text. I'll click this right here. I'll just write text. We're going to find and replace that text again, and then we can replace it with whatever we want. If you don't have anything static on the page, this is the way around it. I also use find and replace to remove quotation marks for API calls. Quotation marks break API calls. So if this was the dynamic text, I would add find and replace. I would find all of the double quotation marks and then replace it by nothing. Just leave it blank. So every time there is a quotation mark, it just removes it from the text. I also use it to fix slugs. In the YourAIAgent.com app, a lot of the slugs that we use is the article's title. And that title has spaces in it. And if you were to put spaces in your URL, it would break the call. So if this was the slug, I would find and replace. There we go. And I'm going to press space, right? One space is the text to find, and then we're replacing that by a dash. So in the URL, if the title was the basics of real estate investing, using that find and replace action, it would turn to the basics of real estate investing with dashes in between the spaces. That is a proper URL slug. You can also use find and replace for what it's originally intended to do, and that is remove text from the content and replace it with something else. So this is my current page article's content. I'm going to go to find and replace. Let's say that article's content was around the keyword mangoes. I could write mangoes here and replace it by HTML hyperlink text. So I'm going to hop into the rich text editor. The URL will be the Wikipedia article on mangoes, and the link text is going to be the text that I have found and replaced, which is mangoes. I'm going to hit save. So now every time the word mangoes appears in your content, it replaces it with the word mango, but this time it is underlined and hyperlinked to the Wikipedia article. There are probably hundreds of use cases for the find and replace operation. These were just a few of them. But if you learn to master this bubble feature, you can pretty much get around any bubble limitation with your own custom find and replace code. Let's go into the plugins tab. Now, plugins are features that Bubble doesn't have out of the box. If you click add plugins, you'll be sent to their plugin marketplace. Now, at first, it's organized by how many apps have installed these plugins. Most of them are free, some are built by Bubble, but there are some paid ones too. Now, the cool thing about Bubble is if you can't figure out how to do something yourself, most likely a community member has built it for you. But right at the top, the most installed and popular plugin is the API connector. This is how we're going to connect different tools to our own app. And if we want to generate text with something like GPT-4, we're going to need an API connector. So I'm going to click install and then done. Now it shows our installed plugins on the left, and then that add plugins button is now on the right. So to start, I want to add 3 API calls. I like to call them the big 3. ChatGPT, which is either GPT-4 Turbo or GPT 3.5 Turbo, DALL-E 3, which is image generation, and then I also like to add Stable Diffusion as well. It's just as good as DALL-E 3, maybe a little bit worse, but so much cheaper. And because people are going to be using our apps, we now take on the responsibility of cost. So we do need to be aware of that. To add an API call, click Add Another API, and it creates 2 boxes. This is the top tier of the API call. You can add shared information that all the API calls below are going to use. Let's call this OpenAI because we are using the API calls in OpenAI, and the authentication is going to be self-handled. Now for shared headers, all of OpenAI's API calls need these headers. So I'm going to click this. The first one is content-type. Make sure you type it exactly like you see here, a capital C and a capital T. And that's application/JSON. We need one more shared header. That key is authorization, and the value is bearer with a capital B, then a space, and then your secret key from OpenAI. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to get your API key, but just stick with me for now. Those are our shared headers. Now we can do the actual API call. So I'm going to click expand here, and let's first name this API call GPT. You can also name it something like text generation if that makes it easier for you to understand. We want to use this API call as an action. Data works too, but I'll show you why action's important in a second. The data type is JSON. We are making a post request to OpenAI, and this is the URL that we are sending the API call to. I got this from the OpenAI developers documentation. Again, I'm going to show that in the next lesson, but you can read through that documentation, see all of the features that are available with the OpenAI API, and then you can add whatever you want into your app. But we want text generations, and it's added with this URL. Now we have to add the body. So scrolling down a bit, I'm going to paste in what I got from the documentation. Now I will also paste this text right below the video so you can easily copy and paste. But we're going to go through and see what is going on here. First off, a JSON body is in between these curly brackets. So you have one at the start, one at the end. In their API calls, they want you to choose a model. And we don't have to write model like this. We could just do GPT 3.5 Turbo. In the documentation, that is known as one of the models that you can call. GPT 3.5 is cheaper. But what I like to do in my app is make these values dynamic. And you do this in Bubble by using caret brackets. So I make a caret bracket here. I like to call it model so I know what I'm talking about, and then finish off the caret brackets. Then it will go green. And then when I click outside this JSON body, look at this. It's made a bunch of keys for us for the API call. We have the model key, which is right here inside the caret brackets. We have the role, which is here. We have content, which is here. And then we have max tokens. There are so many characteristics that you can use in their API calls. I found that these 4 are the most important and give you the most control. There's also things like frequency, temperature, top P. But I've noticed that when you're using GPT-4 Turbo, the newest model, you don't really need those values. This was more for the older models. I'm going to uncheck all of these so they're not private, which means we can now edit them in our workflows. But in order to get the API call to work, we do need to make one API call within the API connector. And then once it goes through successfully, we can use this call in other places in the app. Okay, for the model, let's use GPT 3.5 Turbo. For the role, we're going to use user. They have assistant and user roles. User is if you were like writing in ChatGPT in that input box in the bottom. The content is what you're going to write in the input box. For testing, I like to just go count to 10. And then for the max tokens, this is how much you're willing to spend. How much do you want the API call to send back to you as a result? Now, I think this model goes up to 4,500 tokens or so. I can't remember the exact number. It's in the documentation. But for this super simple prompt, count to 10, we could just do a value of 50. Now I'm going to click initialize call. And there we go. This is a successful output. And it gives us a bunch of options of what we want to store in Bubble after we make the API call. So we don't need the ID. I can go ignore field. We don't need this either. We don't need when it was created or the model we use. We know all that. We are going to need the result. So I'm going to keep this. We don't need the index number. We don't need the message role. We do need the message content. And looking at it, look what it spit out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we asked GPT 3.5 Turbo to count to 10, and it spit out counting to 10. So we're going to keep that. We don't need the log probs or finish reason or this, and this. And sorry, one more. So I like to just keep the one thing that we need, and that is the result. Hit save. And now we have a successful API call in our app that we can use. Before I add the other API calls, let's go test this out. I'm going to go to design, and remember our little app that we built here. Instead of title in the input box, let's write prompt, and the input now changed to input prompt. I like to make this all capital so I know what I'm grabbing. Now I'm going to click on the button, go to edit workflow, and then I still want to create a new ebook, but this time I want the title to not equal what is in that input box. I want it to equal what we get from that API call, which means we're going to have to add a new action. And if I go down to plugins, look what we have here. We have the API call that we just made, the OpenAI text generation. I'm going to click this. I'm going to hold and drag it in front. Okay, let's click on this. It pre-fills everything that we wrote in the API call. So far, that's all fine. But instead of the count to 10, let's make this write in eBook title 4. Then we're going to insert dynamic data. We're going to take that input prompt's value. I'm going to add a period here just to end the prompt. Let's change this max tokens to 100. Now in the next step, create a new ebook. That title is going to now equal, let's right click and clear this. I'm going to insert dynamic data. The result of step 1. Now this is a little confusing. Don't ask me why Bubble does this, but you have to go choices, first item, message content. There's a possibility to give you multiple results at once, which is why you have to choose the first item. But don't let this confuse you. Pretty much what's happening is it's just grabbing the output of your API call and it's creating a new ebook and it's putting that output as the title. Okay, now it's time to test it. I'm going to close this. Let's click preview. And whatever I put in this input prompt box, it's going to make me an ebook title for that value. So let's put a keyword in here. Let's go powerlifting. I'm going to click the button and it sent a quick API call in. So now if I go into the back end, into data, I'm going to go to app data. And under ebooks, look at this. We have a new entry and look what the API call made. GPT 3.5 Turbo. They said the Powerlifter's Playbook, dominating the weight room and unleashing your maximum strength. That's a cool ebook title. Okay, our app is starting to come together. You can see how powerful the API calls are. I'm so excited to build this out and make this an even more effective app. You get your API key by going to platform.openai.com. This is the backend for the developers. It's where you can read the documentation, you can play in the playground, create AI assistants, fine-tune your GPTs, get your API keys, see your usage, and fix your settings. So I'm going to go to settings. In order to start using the API, you're going to have to create an organization. It's going to give you an organization ID. you're going to have to go to billing. And in your billing, you're going to have to add a payment method, so a credit card. You are charged pay as you go for the API calls. In ChatGPT, you're paid a subscription, $20 per month. In this, you're either charged $0 if nobody uses it, or you could be charged $100 if a lot of people use it. You're going to have to be mindful of the costs. If I click pricing, here we'll give you a basic idea of how much everything costs. So to use the best model, which is GPT-4 Turbo, it costs 1 cent per 1,000 tokens for an input. So that is whatever we put into the API call. And then it's about 3 cents per 1,000 tokens for everything that comes out of it. And I know tokens is a little complicated, but you can think of 1,000 tokens as 750 words. They actually have a tokenizer on their website, so you can get a good idea of how many tokens are per how many words. So if I just copied all of this text here and paste it into the tokenizer, this would be about 149 tokens. So just under a cent to generate this amount of text. GPT 3.5 Turbo is a worse model, which means your outputs will be worse than GPT-4. But if you prompt properly, and maybe fine-tune it to your liking, some people can get away with using this model. And it's significantly cheaper. 0.001 cents per 1,000 tokens for an input, and then 0.002 cents per 1,000 tokens of an output. So as you scale your app up, more people are going to use it, therefore giving more API calls, and then costing you more money. So you're going to have to find a balance between using GPT 3.5 Turbo and then using GPT-4 Turbo and then charging enough so you don't lose money. You have to think, are you going to charge a subscription model or charge per generation that your users do? And then scrolling down here, this is the image models. This is DALL-E 3. DALL-E 3 is the most expensive part of the API. It's 4 cents per image, per one image of a square resolution, and 8 cents per image if it's a landscape or vertical orientation. If you want that image in HD, it's 8 cents per square image and then 12 cents per landscape or vertical. DALL-E 2 is a lot cheaper. This is also why we are going to set up the Stable Diffusion XL API call. For $10, you can get like 4,000 images generated. And I'm sure your users can't tell the difference, especially if you prompt it right. So right now, I think DALL-E 3 is a little bit too expensive. It is a great image generator, but very costly. Okay, so once you've set up your credit card, you've set up your usage limits. You can set that for something low so some people don't abuse your platform. You can now generate an API key and start generating text or images within your app. So to do that, go over to API keys, and then you're going to click Create New Secret Key. Let's just call this Test. I'm going to click Create Secret Key, and it's going to give me that key. I can now hit Copy, go back into my app, go to Plugins, API Connector, and then we are in the authorization key. Remember, it's bare space, and then I'm going to paste in that secret key. Okay, so there it is. Now when you make your API calls, it will use that secret key, and you'll be able to generate with DALL-E 3 or GPT-4. If you ever thought your secret key was exposed, or you don't want people using it anymore, or you're going to change it for a new app, you can always go back into this page and then click the garbage can icon and revoke the key. That deletes it. That means no one can use it anymore. We're going to add an AI image generator just like the text generator. So DALL-E 3 is handled under the OpenAI API call. So we can keep this the same. We don't have to add another API. We can just add another call. And you can see it added a call within this overarching API. Now let's call this image generation. We're going to use as an action again. And again, it's a post request. And this is the URL that we're using to make the API call. Again, look at the text below this video. I will paste it all in there. The JSON object is very similar to the text generation. We have a model, which model we're going to use, either DALL-E 3 or DALL-E 2. We have the prompt that we're going to send in to the image generator. N as 1 means it's going to spit out one result. If you're using DALL-E 2, you can spit out up to 10 results at a time. If you're using DALL-E 3, the max is 1. That's an API call limitation. You can learn this from the documentation. And then the size, we have the different aspect ratios. We have a square image that's enabled by default. We have a landscape image or a vertical image. So I'm going to uncheck private. That means we can now edit these calls within our app. For the model, we're going to use DALL-E 3. For the size, we're going to try a horizontal landscape image. So that's 1792 by 1024. And for the prompt, I'm going to write illustration in brackets cartoon of an ebook. Super simple prompt just to test out the API. Now go initialize call. And after 20 or so seconds, you'll get this screen. This means it's a success. Again, we need to select which fields we want to store in Bubble and which ones we want to throw out. So we don't need this number. We don't need the revised prompt. There is an app where I do use the revised prompt, but not for this ebook one. And then we're going to need this URL. So if I copy this URL, first I'll hit save, and then I'm going to paste in this URL. It's going to show our image generated with DALL-E 3. And look, it's an illustration or cartoon of an ebook. I like it. It's like the iPad here, and then there's a book coming out of the iPad. Very creative. So back in the design tab, I'm going to delete this heading. Let's have it so that someone writes in the prompt, they click the button, and then this image changes to what DALL-E 3 generated. So first I'm going to double click this, go to layout, and we're going to change the aspect ratio. So it's 1792 by 1024. That's going to give us a landscape image. Let's make it a bit larger. Let's say 600. Now I'm going to double click outside of the page. And this is the first time you guys are seeing this, but this is what a state is. I'm going to click this eye icon. We're going to create a new custom state. So if you don't want to save things into your database, you can save them as a state on the page to use while that page is open. But the problem is if that page is closed, you lose your state. Now on my YouTube channel, I created a free DALL-E 3 image generator tool where you can use your own API key. And I'm saving that as a state on the page. I'm not saving your key in the database. I didn't want to be held responsible for any of that. So this is how I did it. So I could just do URL here, and the state type is a text, because remember, we're getting a URL back. When you make an API call to DALL-E 3, they don't send you an image, they send you a URL of the image. And then we can save that later to our computer. But I'm going to create that. And then this image, it's going to be a dynamic image. And I'm going to scroll down to the name of the page. It's called index. And look at that, custom state is now available as an option. So I'm going to click that. Now when the API call comes back, it's going to set the state of the page, and then the image is going to read that URL and then generate that image. So into workflows, we're going to go to button click me, and instead of AI text generation, let's delete that. This time we are going to do OpenAI image generation. I'm going to delete this too. And the prompt is going to be whatever is in that input. Remember, input's value. And we're going to keep the size the same. And now we need one more action step. We're going to go to element actions and then set state, right? Because we're setting the state that we created. I'm going to go here, click index. That is the page name. And the custom state is the URL. And its value is what we got from step 1. Remember, we have to do that first item URL. So we're making a call to DALL-E 3. And then that result, we are setting the state of the page. And then that image is going to be whatever that URL is. So now I'll hit preview. And remember, remove the debug mode so you get a clean page. Now in the prompt, we can write whatever we want and it's going to generate that image. I wrote, a fly is slowly turning into a human. If you guys ever seen the movie The Fly, I think it's David Cronenberg, the director. But we have a green bar in the top here. That is the API making its call. It's kind of loading. And there we go. That is a creepy image. So I could always right click, save image as, and then that saves to my computer. There we go. We just created a basic image generating app. Sorry for the horror image though. Now, as mentioned in the previous lesson, DALL-E 3 is pretty expensive. So there is another option for image generation that's a lot cheaper, and that's Stable Diffusion. So for this, we can't use the OpenAI API call. It's a different company. So I'm going to hit collapse and then add another API. Let's call this one Stable Diffusion. This time the authentication is private key in header, and it shoots out authorization, and the key value is the same as OpenAI. It's bearer, space, and then your Stable Diffusion API key. To get your Stable Diffusion API key, you're going to go to beta.dreamstudio.ai and create an account, and then in the top right corner, click your profile. This is me, and you're going to have to purchase credits. OpenAI works as pay as you go. You generate first and then pay an invoice later. Stable Diffusion is you buy credits ahead of time and then you use up those credits with image generations. Now you can see 1,000 credits is $10 and it gets you 5,000 images. For comparison, if I generated 5,000 square images with DALL-E 3, let's go 08, it costs you $400. So it's 40 times cheaper to use Stable Diffusion. On this right side, you're going to hit the plus icon and agree to the terms of service. It's going to create an API key. You can hit copy to clipboard and then paste it into your value here. Now, Stable Diffusion works a little bit different than OpenAI. We're going to add some shared headers. The first one is content-type, and that is application/JSON. And we have to add another one. The key is accept with a capital A, and the value is image/PNG. We don't get a URL back this time. We get an actual PNG image. Now for the API call, hit expand, and we're going to name this image generation again. We'll be able to tell the difference because it will have Stable Diffusion at the start of it. We're going to use as an action and a post request. And this URL is very long. Again, it's going to be in the video description below. The only differences between the URL is which model you are choosing to use. At the time of this video, Stable Diffusion XL 1024 version 1 is the latest model. There might be a newer model by the time you're watching this, and I'll show you where to get that. This is the Dream Studio API documentation, and you can go to the REST API, go into engines, and it's this one right here. This time the JSON body looks like this. You can change the sampler. Again, that can be found in the documentation. The only thing that is dynamic in this API call, the height and width, I like to keep it fixed for this particular model because you're going to have to find which height and which width works for which engine. And to keep things simple, I only do a landscape image with Stable Diffusion. Of course, you could also do square. I like to keep the steps at 40 for the best image generations. And then the text is dynamic. That is pretty much your prompt. So uncheck private. Again, this JSON body, look in the video description below. You can just copy and paste it. And let's use the same prompt that we used for DALL-E 3, cartoon of an ebook. Sorry, one mistake. Scroll up here and instead of JSON, we actually are getting an image. All right, now we can initialize the call and we get a really small image that you can't quite see. This is because we're working within the API connector, but let's test it in our app. So I'm gonna go to design and we're gonna double click. We're gonna change the state of the page. Let's add a new custom state. This time call it image. And the state type is an image, right? We are getting a PNG from this API call. I'm gonna click create, close this, double click on the image, and instead of URL, we are now getting the image. And then in the workflow tab, we are going to delete the DALL-E 3 and instead go to plugins, add Stable Diffusion image generation. The body text, it is whatever we put in that input. We're gonna move this to the first slot. Now we're setting the state. This time it was the image. Let's clear this. And it's gonna be the result of step 1 and its URL. Now hit preview and we'll use the same prompt. A human is slowly turning into a fly. Hit click me. This time it's running through Stable Diffusion and not DALL-E 3. And this is the image we get. We can right click, save image as, saves it to our computer. Wonderful. For voice or video transcriptions and summaries, we're going to be using Assembly AI. Why I chose Assembly AI for this API call is because it's so cheap. Their API pricing is 37 cents per hour of audio. That is unbelievable. So your AI app or tool can offer speech transcription for thousands of users and it won't even break the bank. First, you need to create an account and they give you some free credits too, so you can test the product out. You could probably even launch your app on the free tier and not have to pay a dime until it gets a little more popular. When you create an account, we're going to need this API key, so you can copy it now or we'll save it to later. Back in your Bubble app and in the API connector, we're going to go add another API. Let's call this Assembly AI. The authentication needs to be private key and header. This is going to allow us to use our secret key throughout all the API calls under this branch. So it starts you off with authorization. Now we need the key value, and it's going to be bearer space. Go back, copy your API key, and paste that in. Notice for this one that we don't need that SK dash, which means secret key. It's the same thing. Some apps just handle it differently. Okay, for our first API call under the Assembly AI branch, we're going to expand this, and it's going to be called Submit File. So all voice transcription starts with a file. You give it an MP3, an MP4, a WAV file, anything with audio. You send that through to the API. It transcribes that video into text, and then it sends it back to you. And then you get that result with another API call. So this is going to be used as an action, and that means we're going to post it, and we're posting our file to this URL. You can find this in the docs, but again, I'm going to paste it in the lesson notes below. We are going to need an extra header for this call, and this is the same thing. It's content-type, and then application/JSON. This can be private, which means we won't be changing this within our app. And this is what you'll paste as the JSON body. Just copy and paste from the notes below. And when you click outside the box, it's going to send up the two dynamic values. We are sending an audio URL. So that's a URL of the file. And then summarization as a true or false value. True means it's going to transcribe the audio and then also provide a summarization. And false means it's just going to transcribe the audio. So we'll just use a sample video URL. I'll paste this URL as well in the notes below. We need it to initialize the call for the first time. And then for summarization, let's go true. We're going to initialize the call, and you're going to get all of this. Now, this is a lot of data to get back in our API call, so we have to filter it down. We do need the ID in order to get the results after, because it does take some time to transcribe the audio. We're going to need to send an ID over to them. So we're going to keep ID. We don't need the language model, acoustic model, language code. We're going to need the status to know if our result is ready. We don't need the audio URL, and I'm going to ignore all of these. This is a little tedious, but maybe if you have a more complicated app, you might need these fields. For simple voice transcription, you don't need any of this stuff. This API call is just submitting a file. Okay, so I ignored everything except the ID and the status. So now we can save this call. I'm going to scroll up, collapse this API call, and now we need one more call under this Assembly AI umbrella. And this one's going to be called Get Transcript. We're going to be using it as an action, but this time we're going to be using it as a get because we are getting something from the API call instead of posting something. And this is the URL. At the end, there is a dynamic value, and it's the transcript ID. And that's whatever we get from the submit file API call. So when that file has been transcribed, we are going to send that over and hopefully get a result back. So this is not going to be private. Now we need an example transcript ID for this API call just to initialize it from the get-go. And I forgot to grab it from here. So we're going to reinitialize call in the submit file. Let's grab this ID and go down here and paste it in. That is all we need. We don't need a JSON body because we're not posting anything. We're only receiving. So I'm going to initialize call, and we got to go clean this up again. We'll keep the status. We're definitely keeping the text because that is the transcription of the audio. And then we're also going to keep the summary. Everything else you can ignore. So keep the summary, keep the text, and keep the status. And if you have a more sophisticated transcription app, you can go through all of these and see which ones you can keep and which ones you can throw out. So hit save. Now we should build out the design element for this API call. So obviously we need to send over a file. So on the left side, we're going to scroll down and we're going to find file uploader, and let's drag it into the page. I'll center it here, and we can change the max file size. Maybe let's go 100 megabytes. And we'll also need a button. So I'm going to drag a button on the page. Let's change its margins to 25, space it out a bit. I'm going to center this and we'll go submit. Now user lands on the page. They upload an MP3, MP4 file, whatever. It uploads to our app. It gives us a URL. They click submit. We send the API call. So let's build out that workflow. We'll go on the button. We'll go add workflow. So when the submit button is clicked, and hover over plugins, we're going to submit file, and the audio URL is going to be a dynamic field, and it's file uploaders value, and then we can grab its URL. We can choose whether we want to summarize it or not, or we could do something like this. I'd go to plugins, add the iconic elements, and then scroll down, find the toggle. Let's drag that onto the page. I'm going to bring it below, and then let's center it. Make it 25 from the top, space it out a bit. I'm going to add some text and go summarize audio. Let's fit width to content. We're going to fit the height to the content. And I'm going to attach it. I'm going to hold shift to both of these, right click, group elements in a row container. We'll fit width to content in that group. We're going to center this text. I'll remove this margin for now and actually make it on the group instead. And then let's make that spaced out. I'm going to center this group and call this toggle summary. Now in the workflows, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it in. We're going to have two actions, the same API call. In the first one, when the iconic toggle summary is checked, that means true. It's going to create a summary. Let's right click, copy this expression. I'm going to paste it in the second one. If it isn't checked, this time the value is going to be false. This one will only run if the toggle is checked, and this action will only run if the toggle is not checked. We need two more actions in this workflow. So we want to somehow save that ID that we get back so we can send it later to get the result. So you can either save it as a state or in your database. It's probably safer to save it in your database. So I'm going to make a new data type called transcription. And we're going to create a new field on that transcription that says ID. We're going to make that a text, hit create. Now in the workflow, we're going to add an action. It's a data thing, create a new thing. The type is transcription, and the ID is going to be the result of step one's ID. This should only run just like the first one. So I'm going to copy that only when condition and paste it in here. And if you want to organize it a bit better, you could drag this over here. So it will run these two if the toggle is checked, and then run these two if the toggle is not checked. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in, and it's the same thing, except we need this expression. So I'll copy, paste it in, and now we have our submit file workflow. Now, how your user is going to get the transcription is totally up to you. There are hundreds of ways that you could build this. I'll just give you a simple way. This is how I built it in one of your free templates. So on the design tab, I have a repeating group. So I will send that in right there. I'm going to clean this up a bit. Now the type of content in this repeating group are transcriptions. And if I go to data under the user, I could create a new field and call this transcriptions. And that field type is transcriptions. It's a list. Now each user will have a list of their transcriptions that they have uploaded. For the data source, I make it the current user's transcriptions. So it's going to list them all out in this repeating group. I'll add a text in the repeating group, and it's dynamic data. It'd be the current cell's transcription ID. And then you can create a new page. Let's call this result. And then when someone clicks on the transcription ID, I'm going to go add workflow. They're going to navigate to that result page. Now in the result page, I'm going to click outside. I'm going to change that type of content to a transcription. So that means the entire page is pulling transcription data. So when the user goes to that page, you now need to send data, and you're going to send the current cell's transcription. If you need to revisit the repeating group lesson, you can do that now. But again, I'll show you a quick overview. So the repeating group lists all of the data in your database based on your confinements. So this repeating group is only going to show transcription data from the current user. So it's not going to show transcriptions from other users of your app. That's a privacy issue. So if they have 10 transcriptions, there will be 10 rows of this repeating group. If they only have one, it will only show one. Submitting a file starts the transcription process, and we save that transcription ID in the database. If we want to save that to the user account, we're going to need one more workflow. So we'll click this arrow here and add it in between. We'll go data, make changes to a thing. We're going to change the current user. And then in their transcriptions, we are going to add the transcription we created in step 2. So result of step 2. Again, we're going to copy this condition, paste it in here. And then we have to do that again for the second one. Make changes to a thing, current user, transcriptions, add result of step 5. This time it's this step. And then we're going to copy that condition and paste it in. So they submit a transcription, they get an ID, it starts showing in the repeating group down here. After a certain amount of time, once Assembly AI has been able to transcribe the audio into text, they can click on this ID. It's going to send them to a new page that you created called the result. And you're sending that data, the current cell's transcription. So now let's go to that page and start building it out. We're 50% done with this API call. I like to do it like this. When the page is loaded, we are going to make an API call. We are going to check if the result is ready. So I'll add an action under plugins. It's get transcript, and the transcript ID that we are sending through, insert dynamic data, current page transcriptions ID. Now we're going to go to data, to the transcription data type, and we're going to add a few new things. One, we're going to add the transcription result. That is going to be text. And then we're going to add the summary. If a summary was created for that file, that is also going to be text. In the workflow, we're going to add an action, and it's going to be make changes to a thing. It's the current page's transcription. And for the transcription result, it's going to be the result of step 1, it's text. Then the summary is going to be the result of step 1 and its summary. If the file is ready, when the page is loaded, it's going to send the transcript ID through, and then it's going to edit the transcription results and the summary. Now we need to display it on the page. So let's go to design. We're going to add a text element. Let's center it, put it 25 from the top, and it's going to be dynamic data, the current page transcriptions, transcription result. I can copy this, paste it again. Let's change the color of this so we know it is the summary. Let's make it red. And this is going to be the current page transcriptions summary. Now I like to go to workflow and only run this API call when the current page transcriptions transcription result is empty. Once we have the result back, we don't want to keep sending that API call through. It's a waste of workflow events. It slows down your app. It's not clean. Okay, now it's time to test. I'm going to run as this user so I can save things to the database. I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to grab a short because a short is less than 60 seconds. It's perfect for testing. So let's right click on this one. I will copy link address. I'm going to search YouTube to MP3 and we'll paste this in, convert. I'm going to download that MP3 file. Back in the Bubble app, let's click to upload a file. I'm going to upload this file. And sure, let's summarize it as well. Hit submit. Okay, sorry guys, quick fix. Bubble handles URLs weird. So in the workflow that we were creating in the audio URL, we need to go to the front of the file uploader's value URL and add HTTPS:. For some reason, it's stripping out HTTPS. So we have to add that in manually. And then the URL starts with 2 forward slashes, so we don't have to add that again. So you're gonna have to do that twice for both of the workflows that we created, HTTPS:/. Okay, now I'm gonna upload a file, upload that MP3. We're gonna summarize it, hit submit, and there we go. We get our ID right here. So now I can click it, goes to the new page, and hey, it's already been transcribed. That was super fast. This is the transcription, and this is the summary. If you're unaware about GPT Vision yet, this feature allows you to upload an image as a prompt for the model instead of just text. So there are endless possibilities with this model, and adding it to your AI app is a very simple process. First off, you're going to go to plugins and then the API connector, and let's expand OpenAI. If you've been following along, we have text generation and image generation for our API calls. We're going to add a new call. This time call it GPT Vision. We're going to use this as an action, and it's going to be a post request, and we're posting to this URL. It's the chat completions URL that we used in text generation. It will be in the video description below. We don't need any headers, but we do need a JSON body. And for that, we're going to paste this in. No need to pause the video and copy. I'll provide this in the description as well. So just copy this text and paste it in the JSON body object. The major thing we'll see is that it's using the GPT-4 Vision preview model. Now, I think it says preview because it's still in beta, but it works perfectly fine. We are going to need a text prompt, just as usual. But this time we're also providing an image URL, and the GPT-4 Vision model is going to look at that image and then answer questions about that image. So for the initial call, I'm just going to ask it what's in this image. And this is an image I got from Wikipedia. It's a nature boardwalk. So I'm just going to copy this. You can use any image that you find online for the initial call. Let's paste this in. We're going to uncheck private, which means we can edit this from the app. And then max tokens, let's just do 500. So we'll initialize the call. Again, we get a successful result. We're going to ignore all of these fields. All we need is the message content. So leave this as is, keep this as text, and then ignore everything else. And let's see what our answer was. I'm going to click show raw data. It said this image depicts a beautiful natural scene with a wooden boardwalk. Bam. It looked at the image and gave us the result. Let's hit save. And now we have GPT Vision as a feature in our app. So what's something we can build with this AI feature? Well, there's so much you can do. I created this free tool a while ago on my channel, and for it, I use GPT-4 Vision. So this is the image caption generator. You start by uploading a photo. So the user comes to this page, they upload their photo, the GPT-4 model sees what's in the photo, and then creates an Instagram caption with 3 relevant hashtags. This is how I built it. So the page just has multiple elements, has a text element, another visual text element with a gray background to make it look cleaner. All of this is design. And then we have a picture uploader. The picture uploader allows the user to upload a picture. This is different than the file uploader, which allows them to upload a file. GPT-4 Vision only works with images. And then there's a hidden group. So up here, I'm going to click group title, and let's rename it because it's not a title anymore. I'm going to call it caption. And this text box displays the result of the model. If I double click on the page and click the I button, you'll see it has 2 states. It has a loading, yes or no. And what's going on here is when the model is working, the page is loading. So I have a loading animation, and it's these 3 dots. And then I have a caption state, which stores the result of GPT-4 Vision. Now, I'm not saving it in the database because that takes up extra space. So I'm saving it on the page as a state. States are lost when the tab is closed, but as long as the user stays on the page, they have access to that state. Let's check out the workflow. So I'm going to click workflow, and it's actually very simple. There's only 4 steps in this workflow. The trigger is when the picture uploader's value is changed. So when a user uploads a new picture to the picture uploader, it triggers this workflow. First, we set the state and we turn loading to yes. that shows the loader animation. Then we use the GPT Vision call and we prompt it like a custom GPT. I wrote task, you will be shown an image. Create an Instagram caption for this image and include 3 relevant hashtags. Do not use emojis. I think GPT-4, when it hears Instagram caption, it thinks tons of emojis. So all of my results have tons of emojis. I don't really like them, so I'm adding this in. You could remove it. And then for the image URL, it's this picture uploader's value and then the image URL. As soon as someone uploads an image to Bubble, it automatically saves it to an Amazon S3 bucket and it gives you a URL. So I'm taking that URL. It's silly how they store files, so we have to add HTTPS:/. It only saves the URL with 2 forward slashes, so we have to append this. And then after that call is made, we set the caption state to whatever we got in that API call, and then we set loading to no. All right, let's test it out, see how it works. I land on this page, I click to upload an image. Here's a cute little deer, and it still used some emojis, but not as much as before. The caption is basking in the golden hour, just a fawn and nature's bounty. Aw, so cute. And then 3 hashtags, nature lovers, golden hour, whimsical artwork. It sees that it's a fawn, it sees that it's nature. And if the user wants, they can copy this caption, goes to their clipboard, and then paste it on their Instagram post. Image to image is similar to text to image, but in addition to a prompt, you can also pass an initial image as a starting point for the diffusion process. So instead of just a text prompt, your users can upload an image, kind of like a seed, add in their text prompt to make changes to that image, and then you'll get a brand new result with that original image as a reference point. So it's a great way to make image edits, variants, slight changes, or additions to the original image. And for this API call, we're also going to be using stable diffusion. So let's set it up. I've created a brand new page in my app. So first, let's configure the API call. So I'm going to go to plugins, the API connector. Let's expand the stable diffusion. We're going to be using the same authorization and the secret key, but this time we're going to add another call. Let's call it image to image. It's going to be an action. The data type is JSON, and it's going to be a post request. I'm going to paste in the URL that we are sending to. Don't worry about pausing the video. It will be in the video description below. But if we want to add image to image into our app, we're going to have to make some changes to the image generation call. So these shared headers, I'm going to copy this. We're going to move this down just to the image generation call because we don't need them for image to image. So content type, application/JSON, and then accept, let's add that in, image/PNG, and I'll delete this. Now I can collapse this, go back to image, and this time instead of adding a JSON body like we've done for the other calls, we're going to select form data. This is a different type of API call. It doesn't use JSON. Instead, we add parameters, keys, and values. It's a little bit easier to wrap your head around with form data compared to JSON bodies. So I like this a lot. And remember, we're grabbing all of this from the documentation. For the first key, we're going to paste this in. It's text_prompts. We have a 0 and then text in square brackets. Again, copy from the description below. And our value is going to be the prompt for the initial call. It can be anything you want. Uncheck private so we can edit it in the app. And this is not a big deal because we're not going to be able to see the image now anyways. So I'm just going to put ocean. We're going to add one more parameter. This one is init_image. And the value, uncheck private, we are going to send a file. We are not sending text anymore. We're sending a file. So I'm going to click upload and upload a square image and click initialize call. What we get back is a base 64 string. So that can be hundreds to thousands of digits. We are going to keep that. We need to turn this into an image, but we're going to click this. And because the base 64 string is so long, this is going to load very slowly on most computers. So just click it and be patient. There you go. Finally popped up. I'm going to click ignore field. I'm going to do the same for finish reason. Give it a couple seconds, ignore field as well, and then hit save. There we go. Now we can start building out the page. So we need a few things. We need an image uploader for our users to upload their image, and then we need an input box for them to enter their text prompt. So I will do the image uploader first. Here, it's called picture uploader. I'm going to drag it onto the page and let's center it. We'll make it 350 and let's go 200. Go 50 pixels from the top. There we go. Now let's grab the input. I'm going to drag it onto the page. Let's make it the same 350 width. We're only going to make it 40 high though. And I'm going to go to appearance and choose input main for our style. Let's center it on the page, maybe 25 pixels from the top. And last but not least, a nice button right below everything that the user can click. Let's change this to main button. Center it. We're going to make it 40 as well. Uncheck, fix width, fit width to content. And we'll go something like submit and put it 25 again from the top. A user uploads an image. They input their text prompt to make changes. They click submit. Then they download the changed image. So we can double click on this button, go to add workflow, and let's do plugins, stable diffusion image to image. The text prompt is going to be that inputs value. And what we're sending, the file, is going to be the picture uploader's value. Now we know we get a base 64 string back. And this was a little hacky. We had to find a workaround in order to display that as an image. Bubble doesn't have anything built in by default, so we actually needed a plugin. So I went to plugins, I went to add plugins and searched base 64. And I chose this top one that's been installed 31,000 times by zero code. I hit install. It's a base 64 file uploader and downloader. I hit done. Now, scrolling down, it adds a bunch of actions to our workflows, but all we need is the file download direct. So I'm going to go back to workflow. I'm going to add a new action, go to plugins, find the file download direct. And for the base 64 string, we're inserting the result of step 1, artifacts, first item, and then that base 64 string. And then we can choose a file name. We could do something like inputs value .png. Now we're ready to test the workflow. I'm going to hit preview. Okay, let's first upload an image. And I'm going to choose this really cute deer. It's a square image of the head. And I'm just going to write goggles. So let's see if the AI will generate goggles onto this deer. I'm going to hit submit. And after some time, it has automatically downloaded a brand new file. I'm going to click it. And there we go. The deer is now wearing goggles. The Stable Diffusion image-to-image API call only accepts certain sizes of images. And if I were to upload, let's say that deer, but very long, so we have that same image, but this time it is vertical orientation, and I typed in goggles again, I hit submit, we're going to get an error. And in this error, it tells us all of the image dimensions that this API call accepts. So what I do would be to add a text element above the picture uploader. I'd write something like AI image edits only accepts 1024 by 1024, that's a square, 832 by 1216, 1152 by 896. I'd write them all out. And we can format this better. I could do the same width, 350. Let's remove the height. We'll center it. Let's go 25 from the top. And we'll change this to 25 as well. And then now your users know exactly what sizes that your API call accepts. For AI video, we're also going to use Stable Diffusion. Here are some examples of the outputs that you can get. Just like the image edits, we're going to start with an image input and then apply motion to it to create video. Now, unfortunately, the best in the business, Runway ML, doesn't have an API, so we can't use their software to create video. I mention this because the results that I've experimented with are not that great with Stable Diffusion. They're also very short. With Runway, you get about 4 seconds per video, and then you can expand it by another 4 seconds indefinitely. What I think they're doing is taking the last image frame of the video reapplying motion to it, and then stitching both videos together. So that would create 4 seconds plus 4 seconds plus 4 seconds, and then it's stitched all together to get 12 seconds. If you can find a way to do that programmatically, you might have yourself $1 million business. Here is what you need to know about the AI video. We have some supported formats. It has to be either a JPEG or PNG, and then the supported dimensions are right here. If you want to mix a seed image, you can use a different number. We're going to be keeping that at 0 for the video. CFG scale is how strongly the video will stick to the original image. So lower values will give it more freedom and higher values will stick it closer to the original image. And then motion bucket ID is how much motion you want to have in the video. Anywhere from numbers 1 to 255. Lower values are less motion, higher values are more motion. In your Bubble app, go to Plugins, click the API connector. We're going to scroll down to the stable diffusion calls that we made in previous lessons, expand that, and we're going to scroll down and add a new call. This time call it image to video. It's going to be an action and a post request to this URL. Again, I'm going to paste everything in the video description below. Instead of body type JSON, it's going to be form data. We'll add a parameter. This is going to be the CFG scale. Remember, lower values give more freedom, higher values stick to the original image. So let's go somewhere in the middle with 5. We'll keep that private, add another parameter. This is motion bucket ID, and the default is 40, so we'll stick with that. Let's add one more parameter, and this is going to be the image. This one is not private, and we're going to send a file. For the initial call, it can be any type of image, but remember, it has to be those specific dimensions. So I'm going to go to Photopea. I'm going to open from my computer. We'll take this image of a desert landscape, and we have to make it 768 by 768. So I'm going to go to image size, and let's make that 768 by 768. Hit OK. I'm going to save this to my computer as a PNG. Now I'm going to go back to Bubble. I'm going to upload that image and hit initialize call. This is a successful result for the API call. Notice we don't get a video back. That is because there's 2 steps to this API call. Making an AI video from image takes a bit of time. So we first need to get an ID and then pull the server for a result when it's ready using that ID. So this is perfect here. We're going to save that as a text. And just for testing, I'm going to copy this ID and then we'll click save here. Now I'm going to scroll up, collapse this call. We're going to add another call. This time call it video result. We're going to again use it as an action, but this time we're getting a file back. So I'm going to click this. We're also not posting anything. We're making a GET request from their server, and we're doing it to this URL. Now, the important part at the end here is ID in square brackets. That's going to create a dynamic value for us. So when I click outside the API call, boom, it's going to create a key. We're not going to have this private because we want to be able to send it dynamically within the app. And to test this API call, I'm going to paste in the ID I got in the previous section. So let's scroll down, initialize call, and it seems to be ready. We're getting a preview button here. I'm going to click this, and here's the video. Pretty cool. It looks like it's moving through the desert. Unfortunately, it's only 2 seconds, like I was saying. And just to help you visualize it now, what I think Runway ML is doing is at the end of the video, this image here, this screenshot, it's taking this and sending it back into the API to generate another 2 seconds. So then you get a continuous loop where it continues from the last frame. But still, I think this is pretty cool and it does have some use cases. All right, so the API calls are all set up. How do we turn this into an app? Well, we'll need a page similar to the image edit page that we made in the previous lesson. So what I'm going to do is click this, go add a new page. I'm going to call it image to video, and I'm going to clone from the image edit page. Let's hit create. This time we don't need a prompt box, so I'm going to delete this. And we have to change the aspect ratios that we say in the text. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. Now we'll go to workflow, and then when the button submit is clicked, let's delete these for now. We're going to add an action, plugins, stable diffusion, image to video. The dynamic link is going to be picture uploader A's value. And then we need to store that ID somewhere. So we could either do it in the database or we could do it as a state. So I'm going to go to design. I'm going to double click the page, click the eye icon. We're going to add a new custom state. I'm going to call it ID, and we're going to make that a text. Hit create. Back in workflows, the next step is going to be element actions, set state. We're going to do it of the page. We're going to find the ID, and then we're going to make it the result of step one's ID. So a user uploads an image, it sends it to the API call, and we get back an ID, which we store in a custom state on the page. But that's not done. We now need to send that ID when the video is ready and then download a file and return. So I'm going to go to design, and I'm going to make another button. Let's make it below. Let's call it get result. Maybe let's change the color to something like a green. And under layout, I'm not going to make it visible on page load. And instead, for a condition, I'm going to say when the custom state ID is not empty, this element is going to be visible. So once we have an ID, it's going to show this button. Now I'm going to go to add workflow. Now when the button get result is clicked, I'm going to add an action, hover over plugins, scroll down to video result, and the ID is going to be image to video. That's the page name and the custom state ID. Then we can add another action, go to plugins, and then the download file one that we installed in the previous lesson. And that dynamic link is going to be the result of step one, and then its URL. For the file name, I like to use the current date and time. So I'm going to find that. Here we go. And now it's time to test it out. So I'm going to click to upload an image. Let's choose this one right here. It's a nice illustration of a cottage scene. I'm going to hit submit. Now the green get result button has appeared. And after a few minutes, we can click it and get the result. There you go. It downloads a file to our computer. I'm going to click it. And here is our video. For text to video, we're going to get a bit creative. Now, there's currently no API call that goes directly from text to video. But if you've been following along with the previous lessons, there's a way to hack this. What if we went from text to image, then to video, but doing it all in the back end so the user only sees the text input box and then the video output? I'm not going to show how to make the API calls again. Refer to the two previous lessons. We're going to need stable diffusion, image generation, stable diffusion, image to video, and then stable diffusion, video result. Let's make a new page. I'm going to go up here, click add a new page. We'll call this text to video. I'm going to clone from the image to video page, hit create. Now we can drag in a multi-line input box, and I'm going to go to layout. Let's make it 500. Min height as 100 is okay. For the placeholder, I'm going to put a beautiful nature scene, warm sunny day, illustration, ... just to give the user an idea of what we need them to write. Let's center it on the page, and we'll put it 25 pixels from the top. I can delete this text and this uploader, and now let's build out the workflow. So when this submit button is clicked, I'm going to go to edit workflow. Let's add an action, go down to plugins. We're going to do stable diffusion, image generation, and the prompt is going to be multi-line inputs value. Remember from our image to video lesson that they only have 3 supported dimensions. So we're going to have to create our image in these specific dimensions. I'm going to use the horizontal orientation for this lesson. So in our image generation API call, I'm going to change the width to 1024 and the height to 576. Let's also make sure we're on the latest stable diffusion model. This changes constantly, so I can't make one catch-all lesson. But if you go to dreamstudio.com/API and then hover over the text to image under REST API, the example they give you under engine ID, you can copy this and then in your image generation post URL, paste it in the stable diffusion model section. So right here. And then we can reinitialize call. And this means it's a success. The next step in our workflow, we need to turn that image that we generated into a video. So we're going to add another action, hover over plugins, and stable diffusion image to video. The dynamic link is going to be the result of step 1, its URL. When we send an image to be turned into a video, it takes some time. So we don't get the result right away. We actually get an ID number that we can pull for the result at a later time. It takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute. In the previous video, we had the user click on a button called Get Result. And if the video was ready, it would download it to the user's computer. I'm going to teach you a different way to do this. Let's remove this button. Now I'm going to double click on the page, click the eye icon, make sure that we have an ID custom state. Back in workflows, we're going to add one more action, hover over element action, set state. We're going to set the state of the page, and we're going to set ID to the result of step 2 ID. Then I'm going to add a new event, and it's going to be due every 5 seconds. For the interval, we're going to do every 30 seconds. And what we'll do is add an action, plugins, scroll down to stable diffusion, video result. The ID is going to be the page's state. So let's go text to videos, ID. And so this event doesn't run indefinitely. Let's go to design, double click on the page, click the eye icon. Let's create a new custom state. Let's call it ready. And the state type is going to be yes or no. Hit create. By default, this is no. And then an action is going to be element action, set state. We're going text to video, ready, yes, but only when the result of step 1, URL, is not empty. So if the video is not ready, you don't get a URL, and therefore it doesn't set the state of the page. And then every 30 seconds, it's going to continue to make that call. And it's only going to run only when, first off, text to videos ID is not empty. So only when we have a video ID, and then I can click here and go more, and the page's ready state is no. This is an only when condition where 2 of the conditions need to be true in order to run the workflow. If just one of them is false, it won't run. To keep our users in tune of what's going on so that they know they don't have to click a button, I can go to design, drag a text element onto the page, and have it say something like, please stay on the page to see your result. Just like in the last lesson, there is one more step in the workflow. We're going to add an action, go down to plugins, download file. We need to download that video to our computer. For the dynamic link, it's going to be the result of step 1's URL. And for the file name, you can call it whatever you like. I like to use the current date and time. And let's move it before that last action so that it doesn't break the workflow. So let's test it out. I'm going to write a pirate ship crashing waves illustration. Let's hit submit. If you were building this out for real, you might want some loading animations, maybe some visual elements like a step-by-step process. Step 1, we're creating the image. Step 2, we're turning that image into a video. Step 3, the video is ready for download. And there we go, the video was downloaded to our computer automatically. I didn't have to touch a thing. Let's click to open it. And there it is, a pirate ship moving across the waves. For AI text-to-speech, we're going to be using OpenAI just because it's super easy to plug into our apps already. We're already using their text generation and image generation services. They have 6 voices as well, and they all sound so real. All right, let's create a new page. Let's call this text-to-speech. We'll hit create, and I'm going to change this to column, change the width to something like 700 just so I can see the full page, and then maybe a 500 height. We'll come back to this in a second. Let's set up the API call. To do that, go to plugins, click API connector, and we're going to select the OpenAI, expand that. We already should have the authorization and content type headers. We're going to keep those the same. Let's add a new call. Call this one text to speech. We're going to use as an action and a post request. Let's paste in that URL. It's api.openai.com/v1/audio/speech. Again, all of this is going to be in the video description below, so you can just copy and paste. But instead of a data type being JSON, we're going to make this a file, because this API call, we send in text, it converts it to audio, and then it sends us back a file to download, which is an MP3. This is the JSON body. We have the text-to-speech model, which is version 1. We have the input, which is a dynamic field. This is what your users will input as text. And then we have the option to change the voice. We're going to keep it as Alloy for now and come back to this in a bit. Click outside. That will shoot up the dynamic key. So we have input and the value, uncheck private. And we can put in anything here for the initial call. I put in, this is how to build your own custom AI app. I'm going to initialize call. And it's going to take a couple seconds and send back a preview button here. We can click preview and play the audio file.
This is how to build your own custom AI app.
Okay, cool. Not bad. Now let's build out the page. So we're going to need an input box, and I'm going to scroll down and select multi-line input. We'll drag it onto the page. Let's make it 400 by 200. We'll change the padding to 15s all the way around. Padding gives spaces within the lines. A margin, I'm going to make it 25 pixels from the top, and I'm going to center it. And now we need a button, so I'm going to scroll back up, select the button, drag it onto the page. I'm going to select button 1. Let's clear the fix width, fit width to content, and let's make it 40. That's perfect. I'm going to change the text to submit. We're going to center it on the page and make it 25 pixels from the top. All right, super simple workflow. Now we know we get a file back, so we're actually going to need a plugin for this. So I'm going to click plugins, add plugins, and search for file downloader. Hit install. That's going to give us one workflow action called download file. Very clean plugin. And now we can start building out the workflow. So let's click workflow. We're going to add an event. When an element is clicked, it's going to be that button. And what we're going to do is we're going to hover over plugins, go to OpenAI text-to-speech, and the input is going to be multi-line inputs value. And here's a little tip for API calls. I'm going to go down and add in find and replace to the end of that value, and we're going to find a double quotation mark and replace it by nothing. Quotation marks break API calls. So you don't want your users adding in quotation marks and then getting errors in their application. So just remove all quotation marks. It's not a big deal. The text is all the same still. And I also like to add one more characteristic, which is trimmed. So it takes all empty space at the end of the input value and deletes it. This makes the text cleaner, and spaces also sometimes break API calls. So the input's going to be multi-line inputs value, and then find and replace the quotation marks, and then trimmed. And then the next step of the workflow, hover over plugins and select download file. The dynamic link is going to be insert dynamic data, the result of step 1. That's it, because we're getting a file back. We don't have to add file name or URL or anything like that. It's just the result of step 1. And for that file name, we can call it whatever we like. I like to use the current date and time. Let's test out our workflow by clicking preview. All right, here's our page. We have the input box and the submit button. Now let's type in some text. I'm going to go to ESPN. I'm going to click on one of these articles. I'm going to copy some text. Let's see if the AI can pronounce some of these names. It will be an interesting experiment. I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. Then click submit. It's going to run the API call. And then when it's finished, it's going to give me a file to download automatically. There we go, it downloaded the file. And now I can click this to play it.
As they have from the start of All-Star voting earlier this month, Giannis Antetokounmpo and LeBron James led their respective conferences ahead of next month's All-Star game, as the third and final set of fan results were announced Thursday afternoon.
That wasn't bad, actually. It pronounced the name pretty well. Let's say you want to add something else. You want to give your users the option to choose their voice. How would you do that? First off, we got to go to plugins, our API connector, and we got to scroll down to text to speech. And now we need to make this voice dynamic. I'm going to put voice into caret brackets. Now, if I click outside, it's going to give us a dynamic value, uncheck private, and just for the call, we're going to stick with alloy. So I'll hit reinitialize call. We're good to go. I'm going to go to design, and let's add a drop-down box. So I'll click this, drag it onto the page. Let's clean it up a bit. Let's make it 40 and maybe 200 for width. I'm going to center it on the page, make it 25 pixels from the top. And for the appearance, we are going to go, instead of choose an option, we're going to go choose a voice. Now we need the choices, and we can grab them all here from the API documentation. So I'm going to hit copy, go back to Bubble, paste them in, and we separate choices in the drop-down box by an enter, a new line. So I'm going to clean this up a bit. Okay, there we go. That's all the voices. Now in the workflow, and we go to text to speech, we now have the option to change the voice. So I'm going to go insert dynamic data, drop down, choose a voice value, whatever they choose in the drop down, that will be the voice in the file. I'm also going to check this input should not be empty. So they have to select a voice, which makes sense because the API call won't work if there's no voice selected. Let's go to the tab, refresh the page, and we're going to choose a voice. Let's not choose alloy. This time, let's choose Fable. And I'm just going to write, this is a test of the Fable voice. How does it sound? Let's click submit. It's given us a file. And now let's click to hear the voice.
This is a test of the Fable voice. How does it sound?
Assistants are basically custom GPTs that you can access through the API. Here I am on ChatGPT. If I click my GPTs, these are all the custom GPTs that I have made. Some are public facing and some are private. But before the Assistants API, there was no way to access these custom GPTs in your web or mobile app. Unfortunately, it's a little complicated. There are multiple steps compared to the GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 models, but this lesson is going to show you exactly how to do it. In their documentation, they break it down 1, 2, 3, 4, and they don't show it, but 5 steps compared to 2 steps for the other models. Step 1, we need to create an assistant. So you can do it via code, or the easier way to do it, on the left side, hover over assistants, then click create. And this is the exact same thing that you see in ChatGPT when you create a custom GPT. You can enter a name. This is just for you to see. I'm going to write test assistant. It gives you an assistant ID. This is very important. We're going to grab this in a bit. Your instructions are the custom instructions that you give to your assistant. And you can click on this to make the input box bigger. For an example, this is SEO Fox, and I'm going to expand these instructions. This custom GPT creates SEO optimized articles. So I'm going to copy all of the instructions. We don't need this last bit. That's only to protect our code when other users are using it within ChatGPT. So I'm going to copy these instructions, paste it here. Let's go back. Choose the model that you want your assistant to use. I'm going to use the latest GPT-4 Turbo model. And we have a few tools that we can call: file search, code interpreter, and functions. We don't really need functions because we're building it out in Bubble. Bubble is basically a function builder by itself. But code interpreter writes code. And file search is the same as the knowledge base. So when we look at the custom GPT, there's a section here called knowledge. We can click to upload files, and we can add documents, PDF files, plain text files, anything that you want your custom GPT to have in its knowledge base. This is special, specific, and particular data that it's going to use when creating its output. We've seen that the models have a cutoff date. It's usually 6 months before, but it doesn't always scrape all of the data on the internet. Let's say you have private documents for your business. There's no way for the GPT-4 models to know about those documents. So you need to upload them into your knowledge base so that your assistant can draw on that information. Product specs, internal processes, business details, The opportunities here are endless. I'm going to enable file search and then click the plus button to upload files. You can upload many files in your knowledge base. I'm going to click to upload. I have a sample document here called 50 newsletter examples. I'm going to click open and then attach. And now we've created a knowledge base. So in my instructions at the end, I could write something like search in your knowledge base for useful information. So now this assistant knows to check its knowledge base when it needs help with its output. Step 2, we need to create a thread. A thread is another word for a conversation. So we create the empty thread. Step 3, we add a message to the thread. You can think of this as the user's prompt. Step 4, we create a run on that thread and we attach the assistant ID. So we are saying, I want this custom GPT, this assistant, to answer the messages in this conversation. And I don't know why they don't show step 5, but we have to call the result of the conversation. Let's hop into Bubble and show you how it's done via the API connector. In my API connector, I'm going to click add another API. We are going to call this the assistance API. And all of the API calls below it have some shared headers. The first and most obvious one is authorization and then bearer space your secret key. Let me go into my developer console, go to API keys. I'm going to create a new one for this lesson. Copy that key, paste it in here. Let's add one more, content-type, and that's application/JSON. We're going to add one more, and this one is OpenAI-beta, and the value is assistance equals v2. Okay, for our first API call, I'm going to click expand, and remember, we need to create the thread. This is going to be an action, and it is a post request. And the URL is this api.openai.com/v1/threads. I will paste it in the lesson description below. Then we can click initialize call. And there we go. We need the thread ID for future calls. So while I'm setting this up, I'm going to copy the thread ID, open up the WordPad and paste it in. Click save. And then I can collapse this call. We are going to add another call. This one's going to be called add message to thread. It is also an action and a post request. And we're posting to this URL. You'll notice that thread is in between square brackets. That just makes the data in this URL dynamic. And you'll see it opened up a key called thread. I didn't put that in there. It was generated automatically. And now we need a value. And that value is the thread ID we got in the previous call. I'm going to copy this ID, paste it in. For the JSON body, it's going to look something like this. Very simple. There's only one role, that's the user. And the content needs to be dynamic. That is what your user is going to input into the conversation. So for an example, I'm just going to write count to 10. Let's initialize the call. We get a successful result, and then we can click save. Let's scroll back up, collapse this API call. Let's add another call. This one's going to be called run thread. It is also an action and a post request. Same idea as add message to the thread, except the end of the URL is runs and not messages. Same thing, we need the thread ID to be dynamic. Let's uncheck private, and we can use that exact same thread ID. So I'm going to grab it from the previous call, paste it in, but we also need a JSON body for this call. And it's very simple. We are passing the assistant ID. Remember, that custom GPT, that assistant we created, is going to act on that conversation, also called the thread. So that opens up a dynamic value. Let's go back into our developer console. I'm going to click on assistants. I'm going to click on the test assistant, copy the assistant ID, and then paste it in here. Now click initialize call. Then we can click save. I'm going to scroll up, collapse this call. We need to add one last call. This is called get result. I like to use it as an action. This time it's a GET request, not a POST request. And we're using the exact same URL we used in add message to thread, but instead of POST, it's GET. So I'm going to paste that in. Let's grab that thread ID. There it is. Paste it in and then click initialize call. And this is the result. So we don't need a lot of these fields. We do need the data list. And then within that is the content. We are looking for text value. So if you want to make everything cleaner, you can ignore all of the fields except this text value, just so it doesn't show up when you're trying to grab that result later. And I'll do this for you just to show. Remember, we need to keep this result because our value is embedded within it. But everything else we can ignore, keep this. We want to keep the text value. I'll click show raw data and scroll down. This is what our assistant said. Sure, here's the count from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then let's proceed with the content creation process. What keyword or key phrase would you like me to use for the article? And that's pretty funny because I pasted in SEO Fox, and in those instructions, I said that the next step is to ask for a keyword. It's completely not related to this testing, but I find it amazing that the assistant actually followed the instructions that we told it to do. So that is the entire process for the Assistants API. How would this look if I were to build out a workflow in Bubble? Here's a blank page. Let's add a multi-line input, and then let's add a button. We'll add it right below. In the input, I'm going to write what is your desired keyword, just to keep everything on topic. And then on the bottom of the page, I'll just add a text element. Let's double click on the page, create a custom state. I'm going to call it result. It's a text type, hit create. And this text element is going to be that result. Okay, I'm going to click on the button, go add workflow. Our first action, go to plugins. We need to create the thread. Our second action, going to go to plugins. We need to add a message to the thread. And the thread ID is dynamic data. It's going to be the result of step 1, its ID. For the user message, I'm going to write my keyword is, and then insert dynamic data. It's going to be multi-line inputs value. Then next action, step 3, go to plugins. We need to run the thread. Again, the thread ID is the result of step 1's ID. For the assistant ID, I'm pasting in that assistant that we created, SEO Fox. For the next action, we need to get the result of the run thread. But unfortunately, where it differs is it takes some time to get the result. And depending on how many tools you have activated, how large your database is, how long your instructions are, your assistant takes some time to run through the conversation and get the result. So if we pull the result too early, we will have nothing to display for the user, which means that this process is best run as a back-end workflow so that your user doesn't have to stay on the page. But in this example, they are staying on the page. So I'm going to click to add an event. We're going to go to custom, create a custom event. I'm going to call this result. We are adding in a parameter. It's going to be the thread. The type is a text. I'm going to click add. And then the action is going to be plugins, get result. The thread is going to be thread. And then element actions, set state. We are setting the state on the assistant's result. The value is going to be the result of step 1, data, first item, content, first item, text value. Now I'm going to go back to this previous workflow. And at the end here, we're going to add an action, custom events, schedule a custom event. It pre-fills that result one. The thread is going to be the result of step 1's ID. That's our thread ID. And the delay in seconds, we're going to go 30 to 60 seconds. Let's do 60 seconds just to be safe. That's 1 minute. Now I'm going to hit preview. It wants me to enter a desired keyword. Let's say tennis forehand swing. I'm going to click generate. Now we are waiting on the page a bit. We're waiting the 60-second delay. And here is our result. The assistant that we created, SEO Fox, writes us a list of possible article titles from a keyword. And here they are: Mastering the Art of Tennis from Novice to Pro, the complete guide to improving your tennis forehand swing. I didn't have to prompt it within Bubble. All of the instructions, the knowledge base, the tools that it uses was all set and created in our developer dashboard. Developing with Claude is very similar to OpenAI, but with one key difference. So I'm on the API reference page. If you want to know how to get to this, I went to anthropic.com/API, and then you're looking for the developer docs, API reference, and then scrolling down, we're looking for messages, create a message. When adding new API calls, I like to look at the curl example, and it tells you everything you need to know. So let's start copying this stuff over to Bubble. All right, here I am in Bubble. I'm in the API connector. I'm going to click add another API. We're going to call this one Claude. Next, we need some headers. So I'll do the content type one first. So I'm going to click add a shared header, content dash type, and then the value is application/JSON. Let's paste that in. Another shared header. It needs Anthropic version. So this is the key difference. Let's copy this, paste it in, and then it's the date of the API version. So copy, paste. Now one more shared header. It looks like it's our API key, and they have it as x-API-key. Paste it in, and then we need our Anthropic API key. To get that, we're going to go to console.anthropic.com, and on the dashboard, click Settings, API Keys, create a secret key, name it whatever you want, click Create Key, copy this key, and then paste it into the input box here. In order to use Claude, you're going to need to go to Plans and Billing, add a valid payment method, and then credits to the account. This is similar to OpenAI. It's a pay-as-you-go system. All right, next in our API call, so they call it create a message. We're going to use it as an action. And instead of get request, it's going to be a post request because that's what it says right here. Now we need to copy this URL. So copy, paste it in here, and then we can scroll down and start creating our JSON body. And this is how it looks. They always give you an example in the API reference. And I can also look down here. So model is required. The API call will not work without model. And this is going to be which model you want to use under Claude. Is it Claude 3 Opus or the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet? It needs messages. So that is either user and or assistant messages. And then they give you an example. So we can copy this. Don't worry, I'm going to paste all of this in the description of this lesson, so you can just copy everything over quickly. And then it needs a max tokens integer. This is also different from OpenAI. You don't need to add this in, but in Claude, it is required. And I also like to add a system message for all my API calls. A system prompt is a way of providing context to the model or instructions, and it helps shape and define your output. Okay, I've pasted the sample JSON body in. Let's go through it quickly. So first we need a model, and I'm going to make the model dynamic so that I can change it within my app. Then we have the system message. Again, that is going to be dynamic, and it will change based on our specific API call. We have the max tokens at 4,096. I believe that is the max for these models. And then we have the user content message, which is also dynamic. First, for the model, I'm going to go over to user guides and then to models. Let's use Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find the model name, and it's right here. So copy all of this text, paste it in. Now for the system message, I'm going to go, you are French, and the content is going to be count to 10. Let's initialize call, and there we go. Your answer is listed under the content list, and it's here under text. I can go to the bottom, click show raw data, and then we see text here. I'm not even going to try to speak French, but I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's counting to 10. Let's click save. And now in your workflows, let's say when this button submit is clicked, I can click to add an action, plugins, we named it Claude, create a message, and then we have all of our options. So we can change the model, we can change the system message, and then we can make the content of the message dynamic. So let's say something like multi-line inputs, value.
The payment processor that's most actively integrated with Bubble is Stripe. If you search Stripe within the plugins tab, you'll see this one, which was actually built by Bubble themselves. I recommend installing this one. It's the simplest to use. But for more complex payment workflows, you can try any of these other ones. And worst case scenario, you can always use the API connector. But I think we'll be able to do everything we want to do with the basic Stripe plugin. If you're in a country that doesn't support Stripe, you could always use any of the other payment processors, whichever one you prefer. Search Stripe and then click install. And for the plugin, we're going to have to fill in all of these input boxes. If you haven't already done so, go to stripe.com. It will automatically default to your country of residence. You're going to click sign in. If it's your first time here, it'll ask you to create an account. Follow all of the steps. I already have an account, so it brings me to this dashboard, but I'm going to create a new one just for this video. I'm going to click new account. For the account name, I like to use my business name or the company name. Let's say it was eBook generator. I'm from Canada. I'm going to click create account. Choose your business location. Choose the type of business. I like to leave it on individual. Hit continue. Use your legal first and last name. I'm going to write a job title. Just say CEO. My date of birth. Fill in your home address and then your phone number. For the industry, select software. In business website, go to your app, click preview. If you have a custom domain, you can copy and paste that in, or you can just use your Bubble app URL. I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, describe what your product does. I'm writing generates full ebooks using AI. Click continue. This is what's going to appear on your customer's receipts. Just clean it up. I'm going to have it say AI ebook generator. For a shortened descriptor, I'll write ebook. Keep your same phone number, hit continue. Now you're going to add your bank details. This is how you get paid. It automatically transfers all the money you make from your users into your bank account. I'm not going to be able to help you guys with this one because this is private, but they give you some information on how to find each of these numbers. I log into my bank account website and I find those details there. If you're lost, contact your bank. But we're going to need a transit number, an institution number, an account number, and then confirm that account number. I'm going to fill that in now and then go to the next step. Stripe requires two-step authentication in order to keep the account secure. I'm using the Google Authenticator app, but there are many more options, so click this button, find the one that works best for you. Hit continue. Tax calculation is optional. I'm going to skip this for now. Then review and finish up all of your details, scroll to the bottom and click agree. It should then take you to the dashboard. There's a few things you need to set up first. In the top right corner, click settings, scroll down to the business settings, and we're gonna go to branding here. This is how our checkout page is gonna look. So we need an icon and logo. They can be the same thing. I'm gonna click this button. Let's say I had the YouTube logo. I'm gonna click open. I like to add it to both. Choose your brand color. Let's say it was red. And then the accent color is the color of the button. So I'm going to make this black. There we go. Hit save changes. You may or may not need to verify yourself as a real person. If you go to business details and you're getting this error, click update. And you'll need to provide either a proof of address document or a proof of identity document. At the bottom of the page, you'll be able to upload those documents or verify with a photo ID. Fill that in, might take 24 hours to validate. But once that's all done, we're going to click Developers, API Keys, then click to copy the publishable key back in your Bubble app in the Stripe plugin. We're going to paste that into Live Publishable Key and then Publishable Key Development. There is a way to separate test mode and live mode.
And that's by clicking the test mode toggle up here. It will give you completely different publishable and secret keys. And then you can separate them out here. So instead of PK live, it will be PK test. Next, we need the secret key. So we're going to go over here, reveal live key. Hit reveal. It's asking me to provide a code from the Authenticator app. Now I'm going to copy this live key and paste it in this input box and then this one. You'll see there are two more input boxes. Client ID. If you're building out a marketplace app, so anything like Fiverr, Upwork, Airbnb, these are web apps where you're the third party. You host the website and you provide users the ability to sell their services to other customers. So on something like Fiverr, this user has created a gig where another customer is going to click on that gig and pay that user for their service. The payment goes into Marcus's account, and Fiverr as the platform takes a fee or a percentage of the purchase. That is what a marketplace app is. Those types of apps are out of the scope of this course. We're building a one-to-one app where we charge the customer. But if you're interested, you're going to click Explore here on Discover More Products, and then it's called Stripe Connect. You'll have to enable and follow the steps, which will eventually give you a client ID. You'll fill that in these two input boxes, but they can't be empty even if you're not using it. So I just write CA. Upload an image for Stripe checkout. I'm going to use that YouTube logo again. Fill out the name for Stripe checkout. I'm going to write the name of my app, which is eBook Generator. And then make sure you change the checkout version 2 legacy to checkout version 3. That is the newest version. And now when you go to workflow and you add an action, it will open up all of the options under payment. Things like charge the current user, subscribe the user to a plan, pay an invoice, or create a refund. There are many ways to charge your customers. And a more recent trend has been using a one-time fee instead of a subscription service. A lot of people hate subscriptions. So if you've done the calculations correctly, you might be able to charge a one-time payment, which grants the user lifetime access to the app. To do that, either add an upgrade button or create a full billing page. And what we're going to do is click this upgrade button. We're going to go to add workflow. We'll click to add an action, go down to payment, and charge the current user. Charge the current user means a one-time payment, and there's a few things that we need to fill out. First off, we need an email address for the payment. It defaults to the current user's email. This means whoever is logged in, the email address they use for registration will be put in this field. For the amount, it's your choice. If you're going to do a one-time fee, you need to calculate how much it costs to run your app, how much you can potentially charge your users so they'll actually pay it. And then there's a complex relationship because you want to make a profit off each user. You don't want to lose money. If I had an image generation app and I only charged $25 for lifetime access, unlimited use, there could be a user that generates thousands of images and it ends up costing me more money than I got from them. You're going to have to calculate that out to find a nice even balance between the two. The name is going to be the name of your product. For this example, I'm going to write video title generator. The description will be what goes below that. I'm going to write generates video titles for your YouTube videos using AI. For the image, it needs to be an image of your product or business. So I'm going to go over to data, app data, users. And for testing, I'm going to go run as this user so it fills in that email address. And if I hit the upgrade button, it's going to go to a Stripe checkout page. It has the title of our app, the price, a short description, and then they can input their credit card details. Now that all works, but how do we translate that purchase into using our app? Many ways to do this. One way I like to do is I'm going to go to data, go to data types, go to the user data type, and we're going to create a new field and call this paid. Now that field type is going to be yes or no. Hit create. By default, that is going to be no. Now in the workflow, everything that happens after the charge the user action will only happen if this action is a success. If the credit card payment is failed or they back out of the screen, it kills the rest of the workflow. So all I have to do is add an action after this, go data, make changes to a thing. We're going to change the current user, and the field we're going to change is paid equals yes. They start the workflow paid equals no. Once they pay for lifetime access, it changes paid to yes. Now, any page in our app, any feature that we want to connect, we can create conditions that it can only be used when the user's paid equals yes. For example, we have a generate button on this page that generates video titles. I can go to workflow, and in that button workflow, I can make an only when condition, current users paid is yes. So only if the current user's paid is yes, this workflow will run. And then for design, I can right click, go copy, right click, paste. This workflow being when the current user's paid is no, and I'm going to delete all of these actions in the workflow. Instead, I'm going to add an action, element action, show alert pop-up in browser, and write sorry, a premium purchase is needed in order to use this feature. I'm going to go to data, app data, the users. This is the user I'm testing with. I'm going to click the edit button. We're going to change paid to no, hit save. Let's preview the page. I'm on the video title generator page. I'm going to enter some random text, hit generate, and there we go. We have a pop-up. Sorry, a premium purchase is needed in order to use this feature. So we have blocked the use of this feature until the user has paid. Let's say they went to upgrade, they had a successful payment. I'm going to go to data, hit edit here. We're going to change paid to yes, because that's what would happen in the workflow. Now when they click generate, the app is going to work. The most common way to charge your customers is with a subscription. All SaaSes, which stand for software as a service, use the subscription model. And usually you get an unlimited amount of words, images, whatever your custom AI app does for one set price. In your free AI content generator template, I already have this set up for you. But if you're going to be charging a subscription to your users, you're probably going to need a billing page. In this sample billing page, we have it set for $29 per month. These apps usually have an annual billing option as well. Choosing this will grant your user a discount by prepaying for a full year. But a billing page is also needed because you need to provide the user a portal in order for them to modify their subscription, change credit card details, or cancel altogether. To create a subscription, we need to make 2 products from your Stripe dashboard. In the search bar, type product. We need to create a product. For the name of your product, call it whatever your AI app is. Again, I'm going to use eBook generator. For the pricing details, you'll add your 2 prices. So for the first one, I'm going to go US dollars, let's say $29 per month. It is reoccurring on a monthly billing period. Then I can go click add another price. And again, we're going to change this to US dollar, let's say 290. And this time the billing period is going to be yearly. Then click save product. Scrolling down, you can see the 2 prices here. And what we're looking for is this API ID. So it's a complex string of letters and numbers. Now back in your bubble template, we're going to attach the purchase subscription action to a button. So I'm going to use the upgrade button on this billing page. So I'm going to double click. We're going to go edit workflows. And the action is going to be payment. Subscribe the user to a plan. For the Stripe plan name, we're going to choose which price. Back in Stripe, I'm going to look this price, which ends in 9EI, is the $29 per month. So that would be this one, 9E9. And I can do an only when condition. That annual toggle isn't checked because that means the user is selecting monthly. I can right click, copy, paste, and this time the only when condition will be when it is checked, and that is going to be the different price. That's the yearly price. Now, all actions that come after this will only occur if one of these 2 was a success. But the difference between charging the user a one-time fee and this subscription charge action is that a success is already pre-built into the bubble user. For example, let's go to the Autoblog page, and I'm going to add a new event. And that event is going to be when the page is loaded. So only when the current users, and I'm going to scroll all the way down, and we have a new pre-built field, Stripe customer subscription. So I can click that, go to status, is not, and then active. Stripe automatically handles in the back end whether your customer subscription is active or not. And they give you these possible values: incomplete, incomplete expired, trialing, active, past due, canceled, or unpaid. For 95% of use cases, you're going to use active. And I'm using it as a negative result here, is not active. And what we can do is add an action, navigate, go to the page, and we're going to go to the billing page. So this means if a user has not paid for a subscription, they can't use this feature, because whenever the page is loaded, it sends them directly to the billing page. And I can test it out by hitting preview, and the page is loading, and right away it snaps right to the billing page. So this is a way to prevent your users from using your features unless they have an active subscription. If you want to hook up a customer portal page, you're going to need to install the free plugin called Stripe Customer Portal. Then scroll down under API keys, write bear space and then your secret key. Do that both for live and development. And for the return URL, you need to take the URL of your app. Now this might be a custom domain, but if you're just testing, it will be the Bubble app URL. So I like to use the billing page here. Everything highlighted is what you would use. And then we have a button on the page that says Visit Billing Portal. Now if I double click on this and go to Edit Workflow, we need 2 actions. So you're going to go to Action, Plugins, and this one is called Self-Service Portal, Stripe Portal. For the customer parameter, you got to click, go Current Users, Stripe's Customer ID. Again, this is a pre-built field. You won't have to collect this yourself. It is stored automatically. And I have an only when condition here that says it only works if the customer ID is not empty, meaning a user actually has a subscription. If they haven't been paying, they're not able to access this page. And then I'm going to delete this, open in a new tab. You can also add an action, navigation, open an external website. Before we needed a plugin for this, now Bubble has it natively. But we're going to open in a new tab, and the destination is going to be the result of step 1, URL. So what's happening is Stripe is creating a dynamic URL for that current user in order to access their portal. And it's going to be different each time. This is for privacy and security, so no one can steal any credit card details. And if you're curious of how the customer portal page looks, in the branding section of your Stripe dashboard, it will show what your user can see. So they have the option to update their plan or cancel it. They can change their payment method or look at their past invoice history. Some businesses like to use a credit system when monetizing their app. If you want to use a credit system, you're going to need a few things. First, in data, we're going to click the user data type and we're going to create a new field, call that credits, and that field type is going to be a number. Let's hit create, and by default, we'll start that at 0. This is going to be the field for tracking how many credits each of your users have. They can make purchases that buy credits. You can create credit packages for different amounts, and you can choose how many credits each of the features in your web app cost to use. So by default, it's 0. Let's go to design. On this page, I have a custom GPT called Image Caption Generator. I like to display how many credits the user currently has and then give them an option to purchase credits. For the first part, we need a text element. Instead of 0 here, we're going to insert dynamic data. We're going to go current users, credits. So that will display whatever they have here. Then for the purchase credits button, I'm going to go edit workflow. We can add an action, go to payment. We're going to charge the current user for an amount, let's say something like $25. We'll go something like 50 credits. For the description, I'll write credits to use the image caption generator. You can use a logo for the static image. And then if that is a success, we have to add an action, data, make changes to a thing. We are changing the current user. And the field is going to be credits equals current user's credits plus 50. You can't just write 50 because then it's going to change it right to 50. If a user wants to top up, you want to keep track of whatever credits they currently have. So that's why I do current users credits, what they currently have, plus whatever you want to give them. Let's test it out. Okay, the user currently has 0 credits. I'm going to click purchase credits. It takes me to a Stripe checkout page. That's the image we used. Now I'm going to fill in my credit card details. And there we go, a successful payment. The credits for the user now says 50. Back in design, I'm going to go to workflow. Now this custom GPT automatically works once a user has uploaded an image. So the event condition is when picture uploader A's value is changed. And then it starts the workflow where it creates a caption for the image. But I want to create an only when condition. And I'm going to click this. And it's going to be only when the current user's credits is greater than 0. If the user has no credits, this workflow won't run. We can also add another event when the picture uploader's value is changed. But this time, the only when condition is going to be when the current user's credits is 0. And I like to add an action on the page. We're going to go to element actions, show alert pop-up in browser, and then write something like, sorry, you don't have any credits left. Please purchase more by clicking the button below. Let's test it. Okay, we have 50 credits. I'm going to upload an image. There we go. The API call is working, and it spit out a caption. But the credits didn't change. It's still at 50. How can you make any money if your customers can use it indefinitely? So back in Bubble, I'm going to go to workflow. And at the end of this workflow, let's add an action, data, make changes to a thing. We are going to change the current user, and we're going to change their credits to current users credits minus, let's say this tool costs 2 credits to use. I'm going to go minus 2. Let's test again. Credits equals 50. I'm going to upload an image. There we go. We got a caption. And then if I scroll up, credits now equals 48. Let's say I had no credits. I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to edit this user, and I'm going to take away all of his credits, make it 0, hit save. Let's refresh the page. Now I'm going to upload an image again. But this time we get an error message, and it says, sorry, you don't have any credits left. Please purchase more by clicking the button below. How you design the purchase credits workflow is your choice. I might do something like adding a pop-up to the page and then maybe some radio buttons where choice 1 is 50 credits for $25. Choice 2 is 200 credits for $50. Choice 3 is 500 credits for $100. Give them a discount as they buy more credits. Then add a button at the bottom of this pop-up. I'm going to name this button Purchase Credits to. Let's edit workflow. And this workflow is only going to run when radio buttons value is. Now I'll go back to design, click on the radio buttons. Let's copy this second one. Go to workflow. I'm going to paste that in here. And then we're going to add an action, payment, charge the current user. This time it's $50. The name is 200 credits. Add the description and the image. If that is a success, we're going to add an action, data, make changes to a thing. We are changing the current user. Again, we're changing their credits. This time it's current user's credits plus 200. I would create 3 events for each of the choices for the radio buttons. One where it's 500 credits for $100, and the other one is 50 credits for $25. Instead, this button is not going to charge the current user. We're going to go element actions, toggle, and we're going to toggle that pop-up. Instead of radio buttons, you could also use a drop-down box. How it's designed is all your choice. Now when I click purchase credits, we get the pop-up. I choose the second option, click purchase credits, and it goes to the new Stripe checkout page. Offering a free trial is a good way to get your customers to test out your product before making a purchase. The easiest way to do this is with the credit system. So in data, in the user data type, instead of starting the user with 0 credits, you can start the user with something like 10. If some of the tools in your custom AI app cost 1 credit to use, they'd get 10 generations before having to purchase a plan. I like to create a dashboard page for my users that shows how many credits are left in their free trial. In the free template that I provide with this course, by default, they get 2,000 free trial credits. This user has used 500 of those. And how we made that visual element is the plugin progress bar. It's a free plugin that you can add to your app. And when you add it to the page, I'm going to double click on this element. The percentage that it shows is the current user's credits divided by how many you want in your free trial, and then times it by 100. In the example I chose, it's 500 divided by 2,000 times 100, and you get 25% of the bar filled. And that will continue to go up when the user uses free trial credits. So take a look at how it is now. I'm going to go to my app, data, edit the user, change that instead to 1,500, hit save. Then you can see the bar increase to 75%. That's telling the user that they're almost done with their free trial. And what we have is a general full app-wide rule. I click to add an event, and I go do when a condition is true. And that condition is when the current user's credits is greater than or equal to 2,000, and the current user's Stripe customer subscription status is not active, because we still count credits when the customer's subscription is active, meaning they're no longer on the free trial. So this means this is a free user that hasn't paid anything and they've used more than 2,000 credits. When that condition is true, it sends them to the billing page, which means they can't use any features in your app unless they've paid for a plan or purchased credits. So you don't have to copy this workflow and paste it on every page in your app. I created a reusable element, which I call app rules. Hit create. I make the page as small as possible. Look, it's only 1 pixel by 1 pixel wide. There's nothing on the page but the workflow. And I have 2 workflows. When the current user is logged out, it takes them to the login page. So users that have not registered can't use your app. And then I have that do when a condition is true event that takes them to the billing page when they have no more free trial credits. Then on every page in your app, you can scroll down to your reusable elements. This is the app rules, and drag it anywhere on the page. And remember, it's so small that it won't affect any other elements. Therefore, if any of those conditions are true and this reusable element is on the page, it will work on your behalf. Some apps offer a daily credit refill so that users keep coming back to the app. For example, let's say your custom GPT was the image caption generator. Your users upload a photo, and then it creates an Instagram caption for that photo with 3 relevant hashtags. It costs 1 credit to use each time. You could do something where your credits are refilled every day. Let's say you get 5 each day. They can use them all. They can use just a few. But it keeps your users coming back day in, day out. It keeps them using your product, which means you're top of mind. You can email market them and hopefully eventually convince them to purchase a subscription or purchase even more credits. To do this, we need to create a recurring event. Recurring events are only available on the starter plan because it's a back-end workflow. It's done on the server without the user knowing, which means this is probably not a good idea if you're just running a free app. But if you've launched your website to the public, you've started to get customers, started to get users, this is definitely something that you can implement. First, you have to make sure back-end workflows are enabled. So in your settings, go to API and then scroll down here and select Enable Workflow API and Back-end Workflows. Then we can go to the top, click this drop-down, go to Back-end Workflows. We are going to click to add a back-end workflow. Under General, it's called New Reoccurring Event. Let's call the event Daily Credits, and the type of thing is User, which means that's the data type that we are changing. So in data, in the user data type, in order for this to work, you do need to have credits as a field and also paid, Because if a user actually purchased credits, we don't want to keep resetting their counter or adding new credits. This is only for free users. So we need that paid to equal no in order for the workflow to work. So in the daily credits reoccurring workflow, I'm going to click to add an action. It's going to be data, make changes to a thing. The thing we're changing is the current user. And the field we're going to change is credits equals, let's say 5. Now on the reoccurring event, we can only run this condition when the current user's paid is no. If the user has paid, it's not going to reset their credits, only when they're on the free plan. Now, how do we start this reoccurring workflow? I like to start it on the sign up or login page. So a user has landed on your sign up page. These are some example input boxes. They click sign up. It starts the workflow where they sign the user up. We save their email, password, require a password confirmation, and then set their full name. Then after that, we can add an action, and that action is custom events, set or cancel a reoccurring event. That reoccurring event is going to be called daily credits. The workflow thing is the current user, and the frequency, we're going to choose daily. Now, because we selected daily, it opens up a start date field. I'm going to click this start date field. I'm going to scroll down to current date and time. We're going to go plus days and then 1, which means it's going to start exactly 24 hours from when the user signed up. Then you can continue the workflow how you'd like. This one goes to the thumbnail maker page, and that's all you have to do. This reoccurring event in the backend workflows is going to happen every day until the user deletes his account or you cancel it, and you don't have to do a thing. It's all done automatically on the server, running in the background while you focus on other business tasks.